the syntax and the logic itself doesn't necessarily translate on one-on-one. So you need to analyze the source language features, you need to identify libraries, and in many cases, the runtime library, which is the base library that each platform or developing language has, then translate that functionality line by line or module by module, re-implement constructs, use design patterns as much as you can where the translation is needed. So this is the traditional approach, and usually this has been very, very time-consuming. There's also conversion tools, which have arose in the industry due to this need. They are useful, but in practice, everybody has faced at one point in time that these tools are good only for the initial step. In other words, they will reduce the burden by translating the easy parts to translating the syntax, the basic syntax, the if-thens, the cases, whatnot. But after that, you still need to go and take a deep dive into the translated source code and polish it yourself. So it's only a little bit of time saver, but it's not a complete solution. By no means it is a solution that you can rely on. It's only speeds up some part of the process, especially the mechanical ones, which is translating some part of especially the syntax, but still you need to go deep into the program after it's been converted. And voila, in recent years, this didn't exist, but now we have it. It is the AI approach. In this approach, introduces a completely different process compared to the previous ones. Now, you are not running a blind tool or dumb tool that simply translates one-to-one. You are talking to a very clever and complex algorithm that is behind the AI, especially the generative AI, and then you are interacting with it. So it becomes like a back and forth session where you ask the AI model to do the conversion, and then you do it in cycles. You do it by feeding one function, class, or logical block at a time, otherwise you will clog it. And then you ask the AI to translate the code to the target language, preserve the logic, and wherever possible, use idiomatic patterns in the target language. But even though the AI is very clever as a tool, the key part of this is you. You are actually half of the equation to make AI worth it. Now, you also need to add some context and correct output by providing related variable definitions, some sample input and output, some execution environment constraints. So as you go through the process, you are the one that knows how the software was written, or at least we assume that you are familiar with the original logic of the program. So you're the one that needs to feed these additional constraints or parameters so that the AI engine can specifically focus on those nuances of the program. And then also validate language-specific constructs like memory management differences. You know that Python has virtually no memory management at all. That's the reason that it's so user-friendly versus, for example, C++, which is not as bad as C, but still is a language that you must take care of memory management very accurately. Then you also have type safety and static versus dynamic typing and threading or asynchronous patterns. So these things will vary from one programming language to another. Having said that, I'll show you a real-life case. This is an application in Python for an HTTP API that I had the need to use. Let me introduce the case. It was a customer project where the requirement was to have a remote access management tool and control application. It's a desktop application, desktop format that must run on Windows and Mac OS. Running on Linux would be a nice to have feature. The remote access solution that this customer is using is AnyDesk. This is one of the 3 top companies for remote access. It's a company based in Germany. It's being created by some of the ex-employees of Teamware, which was also a very popular remote access application. They want to keep the current remote access solution as much as possible. In other words, they want first to find out if AnyDesk can offer this manageability and customization of control that they want, first and foremost. So if AnyDesk is able to add these features, then perfect. They'll rather stay with them rather than being forced to use another one. Well, it turns out after the project analysis and assessment has been done, turns out that AnyDesk does have a very powerful and flexible REST API. So basically anything that you can do through their web page, the administration web page, to control remote sessions, remote users, and whatnot, all of that is fully available through a REST API. These functions satisfy my customer needs and exceed the needs. So there is future expansion possible. But the only caveat that I had found is that all the source code is in Python. So everything that proves all these features and bells and whistles is in Python. So there was nothing readily available in Delphi so that I can just plug and play and use it. Okay, so this is a project that they have published in GitHub. This is the sample source code for their API. Downloaded the code and take a look at it. And they have this classes definition for client. They call it client any connecting user. So any desktop computer or any computing device that can install a remote access thing is a client. They also have classes for the sessions, which is the sessions established between originator and a receiver. You can see all of this is in Python. And the key part of all of these is a central unit called the API, where they concentrate all the actual requests that you can do. So this is like the front end or connector. This is API on the client side. So this Python class, this Python API, you can call it, and it's been Pythonized. So you just call Python functions that will, underneath the hoods, call the raw HTTP REST API, and then do the translation and conversion, and then give you back all the results in a Python format. Now, let me just see. I'm showing you the contents of this unit because I'll be focusing on this one specifically. Since this is the connector, I'm not so interested in the classes defined in Python because I don't like the way Python defines the classes. I'm more keen on taking a look on how this API unit of code has been created so I can convert that to Delphi. And then once I have it working, then I can create my new classes in Delphi the way I want. But the key thing that will save me some time is if I can convert this specific connector, the API code from Python to Delphi. So first, here, one of the sample applications that he introduced, they call it sample clients. This simple application calls the API unit, gathers some set of clients from the AnyDesk system, and then dumps it into the screen. I'll show you right now how it works. You run this program, and then starts dumping different sets of clients that were gathered through the API. So this is one of the sample applications. Another sample application is one that will gather active sessions from the AnyDesk API. There's another simple application just to get some statistics on the sessions. Okay, fair enough. There's a lot more over there, but I go back to the key one that I was mentioning to you, the one that has the API, the actual API. So the first thing that I noticed is that the code that they had is a bit outdated. The company has already introduced an API version 2. The one that is in GitHub is for version 1 of the API. Is still active, but is no longer maintained because now they are focusing on the new version, version 2. They still don't have published any code for the version 2. So I had to do some manual changes just to make the Python code work from the version 1 to version 2. There's no reason to convert a program for a version that is going to be fade out by the vendor. So here you have the same code. I have removed some of the parts that no longer are needed for version 2, especially in the authorization schema. They made it much simpler. But anyhow, this will be in the source code that I will provide to you as a test. But the first thing was, this is not part of my presentation, but I had to do that, is migrate the Python code itself to work with version 2 of the API. So once that was working, you can see here, browsing the code, you may not be able to see any difference, but anyhow, this is the key unit that I've been focusing after converting it to version 2 of the AnyDesk protocol. Sorry about that. I'm repeating myself here. Okay, then I went into ChatGPT. I would say that any of the 3 top generative AIs out there is good enough, but I've been working mainly with ChatGPT for the last 2-3 years. So I'll show you this, but the concepts that I will show to you apply to any of the large language models, generative AI out there. So as you can see here, number 1, I'm uploading that single unit in Python, the file that you see at the top called anydesk_api.py. Then I'm instructing ChatGPT, given the Python source code in the attached file, convert it to Object Pascal suitable to compile with Embarcadero Delphi. You may find that this is a little bit verbose, but any of you that have already used ChatGPT, that is the way to go. You cannot assume anything. Even though these things are very powerful and have a huge database of data and knowledge behind them, they are like a baby. You need to be very clear and informative about what you want in order to get the best results. And here is where the interactive part comes of this process. It's not a dumb tool that you just click a button and it'll dump it out. No, you need to be very clear on what you want from the tool. So here you can see the code that it gave me here. First is a program. So it converted that code, even though the code itself, I will not say it's not ChatGPT's fault. Python makes it very difficult to differentiate a unit from a program, because that's the way Python is. Actually, a unit file in Python can also be a program at the same time. Those that know Python know what I'm talking about. So the first thing that ChatGPT did is it thought it was a self-contained program, and it gave me an Object Pascal program. But that's not what I need. So what I had to do is tell it, okay, here is, I told it, you can see the small prompt at the top, make the previous program a Delphi unit file. Then immediately it converted it to a unit, and oh voila, it did it the right way. It correctly broke it down into the interface section and the implementation section. It is worth mentioning to all of you that since I started using these conversion tools, the progress has been dramatic. In my first conversion tool that I had to do about 2 years ago, this process just to get something nice, I had to add a lot more of instructions to give something realistic. But nowadays, it's almost in 1 or 2 iterations, you get something that works out of the box. Okay, so now that I had this unit provided by ChatGPT, I feed it into Delphi. So here's the unit. I have my unit converted. I didn't touch it. I just did copy paste and created a console application in Delphi. The only thing I had to do is create the program part. So here you see the program. It's very simple. I'm just adding simple code to get the key token, the authorization token that I must gather from a file in order to call the API. And then the code, you can see very simple on the bottom. I'm creating the API object and then calling the sample function that gathers all clients. Now, does it work? Oh, I compile it and I got this error. Value list. It did compile, but when running, it gave a runtime error. Value list not found. After spending some minutes checking what happened, I noticed that this red line over there is extracting JSON data from an array called list. But there is no list in the original Python file. In the original Python file, all the internal functions that are extracting the data, they always call a JSON field called items. So you can see that even with the power of these things, and even all the information was in the Python source code, it still made a mistake. It put list, but I couldn't find any single variable name or whatnot in the original Python file that even is named list. So this is clearly a bug in the AI conversion model itself. But no, don't feel bad. The good thing about AI is that self-correctable. You just tell it that they did a mistake, something you can't do with any other tool out there. So after fixing that bug, just putting items instead of list, it did compile, and this is what I got when running the Delphi application. So other than that one bug, it works. It worked immediately. So I got my simple conversion now. Then I go back to ChatGPT and I told it, you can see on the prompt at the top, there is a bug in your results. The line where you call get value to JSON array, blah, 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 should be get value JSON array items instead. Fix that line and give me a modified version using a REST client instead of an HTTP client. I noticed that the code they gave me is using the old-fashioned HTTP client, which only works in Windows. REST client is the way to go nowadays because REST client is supported in all platforms by Delphi. So in one single prompt, I'm instructing ChatGPT two things at the same time. Number one, I'm telling it about the bug that I manually fixed. And again, you need to be verbose, otherwise it won't understand exactly what was the bug. So I had to be verbose on the specific get value t-JSON array quote list quote, so you can find it immediately and then have a better learning process. Once I did that quote, ChatGPT said, thank you for the clarification. Here is the corrected Delphi unit with the bug fix. Change it list to items, and the modification switched from HTTP client to REST client and REST request from Delphi's REST components. You can see now the new code, the new unit that has been modified to use those new components. So I just go and copy paste into the unit file in my sample application in Delphi. That's all I had to do. I just replaced all the text on my unit file with exactly the text that ChatGPT gave me. So I did and modified nothing. It compiled, and then I run it. And voila, it worked. So ChatGPT fixed the bug. So the new unit that it gave me had two things in one. It's now been replaced to use the REST components and had the bug fixed by itself. But now I don't want to use those JSON fields directly in Delphi. It's very cumbersome. Like it or not, JSON is the way to go with web services. But once you have the data in your application, you rather have it in native Delphi records or classes, not in JSON components that you need to use all those methods and properties that are a bit cumbersome to work with in Delphi. So I told ChatGPT this time, modify the source code to assign each element extracted from the JSON array to a Delphi record. Add a record type called tClient with the necessary fields and include it in the code. Then ChatGPT is replying saying, here is the modified Delphi unit that defines a T-client record type, parses each JSON item into a T-client record, and stores the parsed records in a T-list T-client. You see that these things are powerful. I didn't ask it to include a T-list instead of the JSON array, but somehow, by the knowledge it has behind it, it knows that they go together. So immediately propose, since I'm going to change it to a Delphi record, then I'm going to use T-list instead to hold the records. So this is an added bonus from my request. So I just take the unit given back by ChatGPT as is. I do copy paste again into my test application. Oh, by the way, it also told me because of that change of T-list 8 nodes, you cannot call all clients to get a T-list. It knows that I will not get a printout as in the original Python conversion, which was simply dumping it out to the screen. So it's telling me, remember to do this, and it's giving me a snippet of code where I can iterate through the T-list of clients and then write them on the screen if I want to achieve the same result as the previous one, which is dump it out into the screen. So this was also an added benefit, an added bonus. I didn't ask for it, but it said, okay, since I did that change, then I'm going to suggest you to do this change as well if you want the same results as the previous one. So I incorporated two things. So number one, I do copy paste of the full unit, the new unit using the record, the T client record and T list, and also add this small code snippet into the main application to iterate over the T list instead of relying on the self-printing behavior of the previous one. I compile it, compiles with no errors. Then I run it again. And voila. You see the formatting is a bit different because the snippet that is looping over the T list is printing out in a different format, but it doesn't matter. The point is that it worked, and it worked out of the box the first time. And now I have a T client in a T list that I'm super happy to now start using on my Delphi application. So what is the lesson learned? Again, this is a completely different process compared to the previous ones. You are interacting with an AI model. You need to feed the function classes or whatever logical blocks one at a time. So it is easier for you to identify the potential errors, if any, or bugs, or improvement points. I just showcased to you that some of the feedback I had to do to ChatGPT was about real bugs. But other feedback I had to do is to fine tune whether the components that it chose to use were the right ones that I wanted. And last but not least, also do improvements. Okay, the original code was using JSON, but I don't want JSON. I want Delphi records instead. So this is the kind of interactive thing that you must do when talking to the AI engine. So I'm just repeating here the steps. I think it makes more sense to you now that I have shown a real life process. So overall, what I can share to you is that it took me no more than 2 days to do a full conversion of all the classes in the original Python code. And then I just focused on Delphi for another week, week and a half, and I had the project done in less than 2 weeks. If I had to start from scratch by trying all the API calls from this company, I would have the need to invest maybe another week just to get a simple program running in Delphi by proving that I can call the API points and get the data, which is what we had to do in the old days. But now what I'm proving is, thanks to AI, this process is much, much more improved. But bear in mind, you need to talk to the AI engine and you need to know what you are talking and asking it to do. So thank you for attending my presentation. Now we can go to question and answers.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to turn off that screen. There you go. So it's just us. It was great. It was an interesting presentation. I think this is where AI is really going to help. And in fact, let me just, I'm going to change our screens around like this. There you go. Because I'm used to looking that way. um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is one of the areas where AI is really helpful, and it kind of plays into one of my little targets, really, as a developer advocate. And oh, you've got people saying good presentation. There you go. You've got some fans, Miguel. Well, I'm your
Oh,
fan, and
thanks.
now you've got some others as well. Per Arne Lagaval says, very good presentation. And Terry says, brilliant presentation. There you go. Brilliant. And Paul McGee is a little bit more laid back. He's like, nice. But Paul's a very good developer, by the way. So it's nice that he's complimentary. But one of the things that I want to try and, or what I'm trying to achieve as developer advocate, is to about 2 years ago, the general manager he kind of asked me, oh, what do you intend to do as developer advocate? What are your plans? And I wrote a big document with lots of headings on, I want to do this. I think we need to do this. Basically, Jim had his way of doing things, and David I had his way of doing things, and I wanted to kind of do what I thought worked. And one of those subjects, whoops, you're pointing at the floor or something, you suddenly disappeared. But I think the camera might have dropped, Miguel. But one of the things I wanted to do was go to all these SDKs and APIs that are out there. And it bugs me that every time you go to an API, there's no Delphi example. There's like a JavaScript version, there's a C# version, there's a C++ version, always a Python version, because there's always something for Python. And I said to him, I wanted to call it, and it also works with Delphi. That was the title I put up there, and because that's what I wanted. I wanted to have it say JavaScript, C#, C++, Python, Delphi. Well, my tablet just made a weird noise in the background. And Delphi, and I wanted to get to the point where we could get some of the APIs out there that would also list Delphi examples, because I really think that's the secret. Is if you go to a new API or SDK or something like that, if you see an example in Delphi, two things happen. First of all, people stop saying nobody uses Delphi, when actually millions of people use Delphi. So that stops that problem. The second thing is it makes more people go, wait, there's an example in Delphi. Let's see what it can do. And then I believe that the strength of Rad Studio and Delphi is obvious when you start to use it. When people that use it love it, so that's the secret. Is it's a bit like giving someone free cake. If you go to a wedding or something in the United States, or you arrange a wedding, you go to the cake shop and they give you free cake, which is the perfect. And of course, you try the cake and then you go, okay, I'm going to use these people, but there's an emotional thing, like they gave me free cake, I owe them something. So, but also, you want to use them because their cake tastes good. And it's the same thing. I think if people use Delphi, the advantages of it are quite obvious to people. And so I think what you did there, I kind of went around the houses to explain this, is really an example of what I want to do, which is to take Python examples, and turn them, or at least get to the point where it reduces the amount of work needed to produce a Delphi version of something. And your presentation was really, really good. And in fact, the ones I've highlighted a few people, but there's more and more. I don't know whether you can see the chat window, but there's a whole bunch of people saying what a good presentation it was. Milan says, glad to see you emphasize the conversational approach with the large language model to refine your prompt until desired results are achieved. Was that the thing that you found was the secret? I mean, what did you? Because you kind of explained it's an evolutionary process for you, but do you think that was the secret? Is asking the right questions and giving it the right guidance, or?
Well, before I even answer this, I have news for everyone. Exactly what I did I didn't want to introduce technicalities, but exactly what I did now is technically called prompt engineering, which means
Right.
how do you articulate your prompts when feeding them to the AI engine. So the way you articulate them becomes critical in order to get the right results, because you are basically orienting or pushing the AI towards the results that you want. In other words, the AI is powerful, but as I said, it has this humongous amount of data behind it. But in order to resolve what you want, it's like a baby. You need to steer it continuously until you nail it down to the way you want to go. And that you do it with the prompts. And you see nowadays, many universities are introducing masters on prompt engineering or specializations on prompt engineering. So I didn't want to introduce that technical word, that token, but that's exactly what you do. In layman terms, what I just did is, as a programmer, is try to find out what the AI engine is doing and whether it is going the way I want. So you could see that from the first time, other than the bug, it was a workable example, but it's not what I wanted. I didn't want the old HTTP client that only works on Windows. And at the end, I didn't want just JSON fields to use on my application. I want field Delphi records and fields. So that's exactly, it's a simple example, but of course it can become more and more complicated. I just gave you the introduction and the basic idea of how to do it. But you are the expert, not the AI engine. That's the key thing. AI engine is not a do-it-all solution. It's just a powerful tool, but you are in command.
And would you say that going, in future work, you're always going to lean towards AI? Do you think it's become part of your daily kind of, or not daily maybe, but I mean regular sort of tool that you will turn to, or is it? Do you think there are certain areas where it's going to be very useful, but generally speaking, it's not, you know, the tool that you're going to use?
Well, that is a good question, and I'll repeat myself again. Since you are the one in command, those AI tools won't do any good if you are not there to steer it to the right place. Now, I did see some big progress from in just 2 years. That prompt engineering that I did on this presentation was, many people would say, oh, that looks like a piece of cake, pretty simple to do. But 2 years ago, I had to do a lot more prompting and add a lot more of information because the results were not as good and they were buggy. So it took me maybe 5 to 10 iterations until I got something that worked out of the box and compile and give me results on Delphi. But nowadays,
Yeah,
it was almost the first time that it gave me something workable. So these engines are progressing every day at a very
yeah,
high speed that beyond us. But
yeah.
you're
I
still in
think
command.
yeah. I mean, I think that's really true. Is that if people have tried them, a year ago and thought, nah, they're no good. It's a moving target. They are evolving. It's like the history of the world. I mean, depending on your religious point of view, but we've evolved from, basic
Right.
proto-humans to what we are now. I mean, some people don't believe that's true, but I personally, I think we did start out as, very basic mammals and then have evolved from that point of view. And I think it's the same with the AI, that they started out as good, impressive, but they've gone beyond that and they're getting even better. And I think also what's happening now is that we're seeing really what you can do with these, and it's making people understand that actually it's worth pursuing, the evolution of these things to take them to the next steps, because we're only really at the very beginning of what's possible. And my dog is rolling around in the background. Look at him, he's crazy. But uh yeah, okay then, yeah. But yeah, it is true that what you may try now may be even better in 6 months time. What of the, because you talked about multiple engines, what would you say is your preferred engine? What do you think works the best for you? Was it Chat GPT, because that was the one you were mentioning in your
Well,
talk?
I would say that when I started, there was no choice. It was ChatGPT, the only workable choice. And that, I would say, that's the main reason I keep using it. Because I have the subscription and because I'm used to how it does. But I've been working with a friend that prefers Claude. and Claude in the last 6 months is almost at the same level. And what I would be eager to try, because I haven't done it with these kind of projects, is try DeepSeek, see what comes out of it. I know it won't be as good, but just to do some
Well, you
simple
don't know.
benchmarking.
I mean, this is the thing about these models is that, I mean, a lot of people think that Claude is better with Delphi code. I've heard several people say that, but I don't know because I haven't tried enough of it. You know, I'm too busy doing this kind of stuff, but I haven't tried enough of it to actually say yes, it is or it isn't. But everybody seems to have their favorite flavor, and it depends on how much money they've invested, you know, in a subscription as well. But a lot of people said Claude is very good with Delphi. I don't know, and I hopefully, you know, all of the engines will get better with Delphi. Lot of people commenting on your. Honestly, you've got a whole ton of people saying, you know, what a great example it was. You know, great example of how to convert tons of API supportable libraries from Python, JavaScript, C# to Delphi. Yes, and it gives me some hope that we can actually help, you know, catch up a little bit,
Yeah.
because things, you know, in the last year they've really picked up for Delphi, and you know, it's great. And some people they're more brief about what they're, you know, giving you the applause there. They're giving you the thumbs up. So, but one man who is complimenting you is Dr. Kevin Bond. Now, there's a man who knows his stuff, and he said, "Great presentation." So, high praise indeed. Uh, and as Jeff says, I mean, our expectations are increasing as well. Yes, the language models get more competent and more accurate and give better answers based on our better prompts, but our expectations of the results are increasing as well. So for a lot of cases, you know, it's going to be a hard struggle for some of these engines because, you know, now we just go, oh, of course it creates a 4-minute video of, you know, Nelson Mandela singing reggae or something, you know. And we'll, yeah, of course it does that, as if it was not the most incredibly magical thing you've ever seen. It's, you know, you showed an example there of converting an
Yeah.
API, and the large language
And by the
model
way,
did.
Ian, one thing I need to add on this is number one, the AI engine, again, it's powerful, but it's like a baby. You need to steer it. But number two, it's a learning tool. That's something we never had. Now that you mentioned about Claude versus ChatGPT, uh, I I've seen that Claude is heavily used in Europe, and of course, it leans toward having the chance of more Delphi users being using Claude. My personal experience when I started using ChatGPT, it gave me a lot of flaws about Delphi code. But as I did my prompt engineering to tell it where it was wrong and how to fix it, and as it did it for me, I seldom saw those same bugs again when reusing
Right.
ChatGPT with similar projects. So that is something so amazing. These things keep learning. And that's why maybe you read the news about 8, 10 months ago that some Samsung guys fed their whole project to ChatGPT to find some bugs or streamline it. And suddenly that same code was being given as a sample to other guys, users of the same ChatGPT, because the guys
Yeah.
didn't think that it's learning from it, and then it uses that as a reference for other guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is one of the biggest fears for people is that, and I compared this to Kentucky Fried Chicken, which has their thing where it says secret blend of herbs and spices, which is great, but it's the same thing. You know, you've got, if there's something in your code that is your unique selling point about your program, and ChatGPT gets trained on your unique selling point, your secret blend of herbs and spices, then a guy down the road can be you and create you. And it's the same. If Kentucky Fried Chicken is daft enough to give away their secret blend of herbs and spices to ChatGPT, there's nothing to stop me in a chicken shop down the road going, tell me what would be a great combination of secret herbs and spices. And it goes, here's the recipe, you know, and all of a sudden I'm making good chicken. So, I
Yeah,
mean, you know, I'm not so sure Kentucky Fried Chicken is that great that I would want to copy it, but,
yeah.
you know, it's good.
And
But I tell
and
you,
there's an yeah,
you
and there's
know,
another thing that I made it very clear on the guidelines is even they are powerful, don't don't overestimate your expectations. Don't feed a full-blown application to the thing. Don't do that because it will give you a complete mess of code. So you need to feed it workable pieces of code that you yourself can verify and check whether it's going the way you want. If you just fill the full app with a full set of units, it may give you something that may compile, but you have no way whether it's doing what you wanted because it's so much code to check that it's not workable. And that is the flaw that those Samsung guys did. They fed a complete application. So I don't know if they achieved what they wanted, but in the act of doing that, they exposed the whole monolithic code to be used as a sample by
Yeah.
ChatGPT to other users. So that's the risk.
Well,
Don't do that.
actually, the comment that I put down below is a good example of someone where Olama is local, and you can train it locally. So you download the model, and the model runs locally, and then you can, they're saying the Quen 2.5 coder engine. It's not what I've got experience of myself, but they're saying it's got specific tweaks for Pascal. Great. If that's true, that would be awesome. And they said, I often find ChatGPT code does not compile with Olama something. It even does conventions and stuff like that. So it doesn't just give you code, but it uses coding conventions, that we all, most of our MVPs write very similar code
And
to each other.
talking about conventions, I have an experience on one of my yearly results. Yeah, about that was back in October. One of the yearly results, it was giving me all the code that I like, but everything was a local variable with a simple name, just like with Python or everything else.
A or B or
Then I
something,
said,
yeah.
could you please add the L to every local variable as a Delphi convention? Then I said, oh, sorry about that. He gave me the exact same code with all local variables put into L. Said, from now on, I will stick to the Delphi's convention. And since then, I don't need to tell it. Every code I get
Wow.
back, that's the L on the local
I
variables.
didn't know it did that. I didn't know that level of learning was built in. That's actually very impressive. And the thing is, most MVPs, all of us tend to code very similar ways. We've worked in different places and we've absorbed the standards that are really the convention. And you can usually tell someone that's done coding at a certain level for a long time because of those conventions. But yeah, it's interesting. Nothing bugs me more than having a variable that's A, I and B or something like that. Like, oh, you use descriptive names. It makes your code much more readable.
Yeah,
Milan
right.
says, in a general sense, I've tried to remember to tell my large language model about things that improve the response, so long as it isn't proprietary. This helps everybody that needed information. Well, you can choose not to. I believe some of them allow you to say, don't train on my material. But I think it's a good point of view is to say, actually, I think it's a kind of collective gain here that if we at least allow it to train on some of the things, it helps everybody overall. And that's what we want, right? Is we all want to have those large language models get better because, collective knowledge is, 50 heads are better than one, as long as they're the right heads. But I think it's a very interesting topic. And so many people commenting and saying what a great presentation you did, Miguel. I mean, you always terrify me because always at the last minute, like, I'll do it live. I'm like, no. but I know you well enough. You're a good guy, and we talk behind the scenes on we work on all sorts of things together from time to time and stuff like that. But I really appreciate, and a lot of people love that presentation. So thanks very much. So we're gonna move on. So I'll say goodbye to you. So Jeff is saying ChatGPT has memory and now even uses previous conversations in your account. Oh, yeah, it's not long. The singularity will come, and you and I, Miguel, will both be obsolete. We'll be stuck in a cage by an AI-powered robot, with Tesla written on it, or something like that.
Yeah,
What I
yeah.
think will happen, by the way, one thing that will happen is I believe someone out here must be doing it, which is these kind of forums that we're on now. We use Restream should be able to listen to how I speak and listen to you speak in Spanish. I assume you speak Spanish as your first language, is that right?
Yeah.
Spanish. Yeah. So what I think will happen is that I will speak English, you'll speak Spanish, but you'll choose what language you want it broadcast in when you're a viewer. So you'll say, I want to hear them both speak Spanish or even Brazilian Portuguese. And so we will speak to each other in the language that we feel most able to express in. The AI will listen to us and then convert that into whatever language the viewer wants. And it will dub the lips, because there are apps out there now, mobile apps, that can take my lips, hear what I say, and then convert me to speak in fluent Chinese, for example, Mandarin Chinese. And it moves the lips as well. And so you would be speaking Spanish, I'd be speaking English, and someone else would be watching and listening in Danish. So, these things are the brave new world we're coming into. So,
Well, your dream has come true. In the Apple WWDC conference last week, they announced that FaceTime, before the end of this year, they will introduce that feature.
I didn't
It will
I
be
didn't
live
watch all the
translation.
stuff. I was unfortunately at a conference. I watched some of the WWD stuff. I love Apple. I mean, I have an Apple Watch. I have a Mac over that way, and I mean, they have half my bank account in their
Yeah.
bank account
Well,
now.
they
But
announced that this year they will introduce it in FaceTime. So exactly what you
yeah,
said will be a reality if they achieve their deadline.
I have an Android phone, and if I watch now, as well as an iPhone, I've got an iPhone as well. With the Android phone, if someone puts up an Instagram post or something like that, I can hold down my home button, and then it freezes the screen, and then there's a little thing I can click there, and it translates all the text on the screen, including text in images and on people's t-shirts and things like that. It's quite incredible, and he detects it, and it's all AI based, so it's pretty amazing stuff.
Clever. Yep.
With good stuff. Okay, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Miguel, and I will speak to you another time. We're going to go on to the next person now.
Thanks all of you
Adios.
for attending the presentation. I hope it will be helpful for all of you.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people really like that. Speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye bye.
See you. Bye.
So yeah, good, Miguel. He's a great guy, and he's I'm sure some of you've seen him before in other things, but he does quite a lot of MVP stuff, and he works on some of our projects as well. He's worked on the XML mapper tool. He's one of the guys that's involved in that, and a few other things as well. But he's one of these people that is very understated smart. And by that I mean a smart guy who is not blowing his own trumpet and making a big fuss about it. He's just clever and gets on with it with the minimum of fuss. And like I say, he always says, I'll do it live. And we're like, don't do a live presentation. It's a bad idea. I do them because I'm used to doing them, but other people, they terrify me when they say that, just in case. But yeah. Okay, all right. So the next session that is coming up. Let me. This slide is going to be wrong, but I'm just going to put it up anyway. That was just porting a Python REST app to Delphi with Miguel, and we are now going to go on to the next section, which is developing in the AI era, tips and tricks. And this is with Diego Armani, and he'll be joining us live with Dion as well after the presentation. It's a short presentation, it's only 17 minutes long, but I'll see you after the presentation.
Hi, today I am going to share with you the talk Developing in the AI era, tips and tricks. And the question that guides these conversations beyond only writing our code, what else can I help us in the development process? In other words, besides writing code, how can AI really help us in our daily lives as developers? For that, I prepared a quick and practical journey, divided into that parts. AI impacted data, 13 practical tips, and at the end, a bonus tip. Shall we? My name is Diego Hernani. I've been a software developer for 10 years, and in my spare time, I studied and shared summaries on the page The Delphi Developer in the form of articles. Welcome to Talk, developed in the AI era, tips and tricks. As I said, today we're going beyond just writing the code. We will explore how AI can truly help us, not just to code faster, but to think better, plan better, and program smarter. I'll show you how I've been doing this in real projects using prompt you can apply to your our works. Impactful data. Google conducted an internal study indicated that developers using AI tools completed the software development tasks 21% faster than those who did not use these tools. The consultant firm Slalom mentioned in its article that the AI agents can increase developer productivity by up to 2.5 times by automating tasks such as code generation and testing. And this is not just about speed, it's about quality, productivity, and automation. So today I am going to share 13 practical ways I use AI in my day-to-day as a developer, self-developing, from planning to debugging and beyond. Tip on JSON to Delphi class. Go a JSON structure from the front end or a configuration file and need to map it. Use AI. The AI generates the complete class with the correct types, formats the camel case, and even provides the full values. This saves times and reduces errors. Look at this. The AI did not just spit out a generic class. It correctly used the JSON name attribute to map the JSON fields, handled the name conversion from snake case to Pascal case, and create the property for us. This is a solid, ready-to-use piece of code that saves us from the tedious and error-prone tasks of manual mapping. Tip 2. API calls. I was developing an API integration and found example in JavaScript, C# and curl, but could not find any for Delphi. So I just copied the curl command and asked Gemini to generate an example. And here the magic. The AI generates the complete procedure, not how it instantaneously HTTP client correctly set up the string With the JSON payload, add the necessary authorization read and wrap everything in a refined block to ensure the objects are freed. It's not just code, it's complete, well-structured example that you can practice much copy and paste, saving a huge amount of research and implementation time. Simple mistakes get missed even by experienced developer. Just pass your source code into your favorite AI agent and use this prompt. Find possible bugs and suggest a corrected version of this Delphi function. You might find a missing validation, issue with arrays or unutilized variables. Remember, GPT-3 found a zero-day vulnerability in the Linux kernel. Tip 4. SQL improvement. Optimize your SQL and put an end to long, slow, inefficient queries. Remember to pass the create table script. This helps refine your prompt for a better result script. And look at the quality of this data. It did not just give us 50 hours of test and 1 to 3. It generated plausible, varied product names and prices, like game laptop XIZ or wireless optical mouse. This hug. It saves us the mental energy of having to be creative with test data, allowing us to focus on the actual logic of our application. Tip 5. Scope analysis. AI is great for point out what's missing, pass in the requirements, and write this prompt. See how it breaks down the problem. It's asking about data validation, like negative price, missing management features like editing or deleting, and crucial business hurdles like handling duplication product name or need a SKU. It's acting as a second pair of ears, a virtual senior developer or business analyst, ensuring we cover all our bases before reading a single line of code. Tip 6. Implementation plan. If you want to create a new model in the system, structure an MVP idea, generate the implementation scope, generate estimates, basic. Then make a prompt similar to this. Here, the AI generated a complete MVP roadmap. It's broken down into logic phase, backend first, then UI, then business logic, and finally testing. It's having suggesting a specific component like the big grid or the datetime picker, and provide hold times estimate for each phase. This gives us structured actionable plan right from the start, turning a vague idea into concrete project outline in minutes. Tip 7. Code structure. Language models work best with structured source code. Avoid using AI to create or modify forms and DFMs, as it is not effective for this kind of task. They can corrupt your form. Tip 8. Unit tests. Testing always get put off for the next project. No more. The AI builds the framework, set up assets coverage for edge cases, ready to run or tweak. Tip 9. Exception handling. Ask the AI to identify exception within your procedures and function, and to provide suggestions on how to handle them. From string conversions to file access, AI assists you in writing more robust code. Tip 10. The bug help. Are you getting errors like list index out of bounds? Describe the context and then ask for suggestions for a solution. The GPT 3.5 and 4.1 models are great for giving you hypotheses and helping you isolate the problem. Tip 11. Refactoring. Legacy code in toggle to read. It's time to refactor without fear. Advanced model now exceed human coding abilities. Therefore, that old broken routine can be reworked. It removes redundancy, applies best practices, and makes everything clear. Tip 12. Design and UX. Want to modernize the interface? Use prompt. Surface spacing, grouping, and the button placement, even in the VCL. Tip 13. Integration with other languages. You can offer more thorough integration. You might not know the ins and the outs of other languages, but with an LLM at your side, you can translate code, get explanations, and speed up the process. The integration works as follows. Def calls a JavaScript function, which in turn executes the Python function and returns the result. Tip bonus. Prompt engineering. The way you ask matters. Test variation likes. Code only, no explanation. Make it more readable, or what's the best approach for this routine? It is not necessary to use. Please and thank you. The AI you avoid today is already fast-tracking another developer's career. Everything an AI generates comes from its existing training data. You are not feeding it. You are simply using it. Don't fall behind. Using knowledge to refactoring, plan, test, and evolve. Thank you very much. Let's continue learning, experimenting, and create better with AI.
Forgot to turn my camera on. There you go, schoolboy error. I liked that. That was great. And the good news is we have Diego, and we also have a stunt double to help him out in the form of Dion. So let's just pick all three of you up. Let's see if I can make that happen. There you go. Hola, Diego. How are you? Or should I say, tudo bem? Because I've looked it up, you see. Thank you for your presentation. For those that are in the chat, I'm just going to explain who's who. So Diego did the presentation. He's there you go. If I point that way, there he is. And then Dion down here works with him, and Dion is going to help with the questions. Diego was telling me in the private chat behind there. And by the way, guys, you've got some love already. Andrew Spencer saying, thank you, great idea. So good job, Diego. And Paul McGee also says thank you as well. So you got some people liking it. Now, I should say in the private chat, I said, I'm very impressed that you presented in English. Oh, people saying nice things as well. Alexandre Ballestero de Paula. I'm guessing that's a Brazilian, right? It's a, yeah, Brazilians always have like 17 different names. I've noticed this. But he said, oh, and he says it in Portuguese as well. So there you go. But I said, oh, I'm very impressed that you presented in English. That's very hard to do. And Diego said, thank you. I spent 4 days training, and it was your first time recording. Is that right? First time?
Primeira vez que tu grava?
Primeira vez que eu gravo falando inglês, na verdade, em público, assim, foi bem diferente, né? Eu tive que treinar várias vezes aqui no quarto.
That is the first time.
Yeah.
Então foi uma experiência diferente.
It was a good experience. I'm guessing that's what he's saying. Yeah. Well, you know, you can't hear me clapping because my microphone cuts it off, but well done. Well done. It's very difficult. And lots of people saying handy tips. And I'm just going to block someone who's clearly a spammer. You get these from time to time. So you did say a couple of interesting things. And Dion, I'll ask the question. Dion, you can translate. We'll let Diego answer, and then you can translate Diego's answer. So one thing you said was that you took a Python example and then it converted it from snake case, which is how Python does it, into Pascal casing. So the Pascal case. Did you have to ask it to do that, or did it do it automatically?
Sim, o Obrigado pediu se quando converteu do Python ele transformou de snake case automaticamente para Delphi, ou tu teve que pedir para ele fazer isso manualmente?
Eu tive que também pedir ele para fazer essa conversão, porque eu não programo em Python.
He had to ask because he does not know Python, so he had to ask the LLM to do that translation, and LLM do it as well.
All right, very good. And AT, my dog's making weird noises. Shush. He's behind me down there. I can't point to him. There he is. You see the big stack of dog treats, and he's still not happy. Yes, but they're watching you. Do some AI stuff. Go on. I think there will be a time when they will get AI to understand dog barking, and then like on was it Up? There was a Disney movie where they had a thing on the dog, and the dog's like squirrel, squirrel, and that's that's all it understood. I think the interesting thing that you mentioned as well is that not to trust the answers and ask good questions. I think that was the thing that you were saying. Is that right?
Entendeu? Que não, tu diz para não confiar nas perguntas, mas pedir a validação das respostas, né?
Isso. Quando a validação das respostas, você fala? Validação das respostas?
Isso.
Isso. Nós não devemos confiar exatamente naquilo que a IA responde. A gente deve pegar aquele conteúdo realmente e validar ele e ajustar ele, pois aquele conteúdo é mais para nos dar um caminho, né, de como fazer. Essa é a ideia.
He thinks that the AI show the way that we must code, but not exactly all the code that we must use. We always must validate what the AI put on to us to use in our source code.
In fact, we have a session tomorrow with, and let me see who it is, Valerie Kim from the Scanner, and they have an AI scanner that scans code and looks for vulnerabilities and mistakes as well. So, like uninitialized variables or things like that. There a whole lot of people say nice things. I'm really pleased for you for your presentation, because I don't even remember my first presentation, but a lot of people saying good things for you. Meltdown Sharkhaven, which is the best username we ever have. It says 10 out of 10, so a good job. And Paul McKee says, my dog says I'm out of here. Actually, he's under my desk now. He's given up trying to confuse me and things like that. And also, Roberto says, thanks from Mexico, Diego. So there you go. Milian says, in all of these demos, the most effective results appear to be when a specific task is automated rather than trying to eliminate a job. Is that something you agree with? Or
Tarefas específicas performam melhor do que um trabalho inteiro. O que tu acha?
Tarefas específicas, isso. Ao invés de você pegar todo o projeto e colocar, foi até nos exemplos, né, que eu dei, até porque tem empresas que não permitem você pegar o código, a regra de negócio e colocar dentro da IA. Então, o ideal é você pegar pequenas partículas e colocar na IA para que ela responda.
Even for compliant basis, Ian, Diego thinks that it's better for us to only put small tasks in AI, and of course AI will do better than we put like a whole project spec to AI to generate code for us.
That's interesting, because that's also what Miguel said. Miguel said if you give it a whole program, you're actually going to fail, because it's too many things happening. And I think that might be to do with token space, because the large language modules break things up into tokens, and there's a limit. It's like the old days of having not enough memory. So you create so many global variables or something, and you run out of memory. And I think it might be possibly that happens with AI, that you're literally asking it to do too much, and it can't cope. I want to ask you both actually this question. Am I right in saying that in Brazilian Portuguese, there is a phrase which means what's up or how's it going, which is I? Is that right? It's spelled E. So how do you guys know EI? So is that why? Because I've heard Brazilians say IA when they're talking about artificial intelligence. Is it round okay, so in Portuguese it's back to front, right?
Yes, in Portuguese it's back to front. In Portuguese is inteligência artificial, so AI.
So whenever you hear somebody saying in English AI, you must go, what's up? Yeah, that's very funny. I often wonder, if some of these languages out there, like in Japanese, you could really offend someone by accident by some of these names that are out there. I'll give you a little example, and Dion, you might have to explain this to Diego because I think it's going to be a lot of English words. But when we choose names, we have code names for betas, okay, and that's not a secret. People know that. And even the products, I did a blog recently about Rad Studio 13, and we had two choices. It was Florence and I can't even remember the other one now, but another city. And we couldn't decide between the two, so we let users pick which one they wanted. And Florence was the one. So the next version of Rad Studio will be Rad Studio 13 Florence. We've had Athens and we've had, all the others, but the next one will be Florence. And what people don't know is that actually we have a very long process we go through in the company where we look at the names and decide which names are not going to offend people by accident. Because we get a lot of people suggest their city. Hey, you should name it after Sao Paulo. You should. I mean, we've had a Rio already. Yeah. Oh, you should name it after Mexico City or somewhere. But when we let people choose the names, everybody chooses their own city. So someone chooses Rio, someone chooses Sao Paulo, someone chooses Milton Keynes in England, someone chooses London. But some people choose weird city names, and they can upset people in different languages. And we had one recently where someone suggested it, and it was a great name, but it was the site of a terrible atrocity, like a mass killing. And of course, it's you don't really want to pick that name for a product. And I'm sure the same thing must happen in Portuguese. That this AI is just a weird coincidence. So
Ele diz que eles têm todo um controle para não ofender as pessoas com a seleção do nome da versão do Delphi, entende? Que algumas cidades às vezes vão ofender. Então, nessa questão da tradução, olha o cuidado que tem que ter, que cada cidade tem que ter validado o nome para poder dar
it's
a versão.
harder than it looks, And so when you use AI, and you in your examples you were using English. This is a question for Diego. But when you actually tried to do that, did you use English or Portuguese, or does it matter to you? I mean, do you find it works well in Portuguese?
Quando tu usa inglês ou português elas?
Eu costumo escrever o que eu quero em português, traduzir para inglês e colocar na IA. Eu costumo fazer isso.
He writes what he wants in Portuguese, translate to English, and then send to AI. Because AI always will answer us better in English than in Portuguese.
I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's because a lot of the companies that work in AI are American, and therefore English is the primary language that's used. But I find that weird because certainly for Delphi, there are many thousands, well, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in Brazil that know Delphi. And I have seen, I mean, you guys, when you write your own code in Brazil, you write comments in Portuguese, right? You don't write it in English. Do you write your comments in code in Portuguese?
Many companies here in Brazil prefer to write comments in English, even in Brazil, because many projects has overseas developers. So it made easier for us to share the code and comments.
I feel sorry for you guys. If I had to write comments in Portuguese, I would need some add-in that did it all for me, because I mean, I can say, hola and things like that, and obrigado, and I've said this before, I can say like 5 words in Portuguese and that's it. So and always the only word I know in almost every language is beer.
That's all that we need to know.
Or pepperini is the other one. It's it's a sad reflection on my life, I think. Yeah, and so I mean, again, this is probably a question for Diego. If you could dream anything about AI, if you wanted to imagine an impossible future, that anything with AI was going to be possible in the future, what would you want to see come out of AI in the next few years, 5 years, 10 years or more? Because you're both quite young. Like for me, I don't care what happens to AI in 30 years because I'm probably not going to be here because I don't eat a healthy enough diet. But for you guys, what do you imagine the
Se
future
pudesse
will be
imaginar
in
um
5,
futuro
10,
com AI,
15?
como tu imaginaria que seria daqui a 5,
Se eu
10
pudesse
anos?
imaginar um futuro,
É,
Yeah, with no restriction. Anything is possible. What would you choose? What would you think might happen?
que tu escolheria sem restrições, assim, o que tu pensa que ela vai ser, como vai ser.
essa semana eu postei alguns pequenos artigos no LinkedIn, né, para aquecendo o público ali para o evento, para convidar. E é basicamente o que eu penso. Eu penso como se fosse um auxiliar, eu simulei a imagem como se fosse uma robô. Eu penso algo assim, que seria a auxiliar, a companheira de tarefas. Então, assim,
Posted
foi
on
basicamente.
his website this week about when he are promoting the speech, Ian, and he thinks that AI will be like a, to not use the word, but a co-pilot, a help developer
An
alongside.
assistant. Yeah, an assistant.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I think beyond that because I'm that kind of guy. For me, I believe that within reach in a year to 2 years, I think it's going to make communication a lot easier. I think it's very possible that next year, if we come back next year, I think it's very possible that you two will both be able to speak in Portuguese and I will speak in English. But it will, and I said this to Diego, oh God,
Miguel.
my mind. Miguel, yes, sorry, yeah.
Legal.
I've had so many people on it, so but I said this to Miguel that I really think that that's to me the most obvious step is, as someone says here, a Babel fish, which is these things, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you put the bud in your ear and everything you hear is in your language. Now, for me, that would be great because then I can do a presentation for someone in Brazil and speak English, but you hear Portuguese. But instantly and perfectly, and it will map my lips so it doesn't look weird. I'm not doing that, but my mouth will move in time to the Portuguese, and I think that this will make the world smaller because already when I go to Brazil, and I'm coming again this year, I'll see you this year, but when I go to Brazil, everybody knows me. It's like being Taylor Swift or some famous pop star when I turn up at the concerts. Because everybody knows my face. But it would be even more amazing that not only does everybody know me, but everybody will understand what I'm saying. Because at the Brazilian event, everybody had a headset on, and there was a very good guy doing the translation, and he was English, but he lived in Brazil, so he spoke both languages. And when I was making jokes, he very cleverly translated the jokes so they worked in Portuguese. But I think that AI will get to the point where I will just talk, and all of you will have your headsets in, and it will automatically. His job will go. I think that's a shame for him. But it means that Diego will not have to spend 4 days practicing English, which was a very good job, because you will speak in Portuguese and everybody will understand everybody else. But when I go to Brazil and I show the code on the screen and I show Delphi code, everybody understands what I'm writing, because Delphi is a universal language we all speak already. And that's what makes us like this, because even though you live, thousands of miles away from me, and I live thousands of miles away from where I was born, actually, we all still speak that same language of being software developers, but Delphi developers. And so I think it's an interesting future,
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Because I don't want to put you on the spot for too long. But Dion, can you translate this to Diego so that he understands? Diego, first of all, I want to thank you. I'm going to do a sentence at a time so you get the words across without having to remember them all. So first of all, I want to thank Diego for coming.
Tá te agradecendo muito por ter vindo.
Okay. And secondly, I want to congratulate him because this was his first presentation. And his first presentation was in English, and lots of people on the comments have been very happy and said thank you as well. So
Tá agradecendo por tu ter feito a primeira apresentação em inglês e muitas pessoas estarem te elogiando nos comentários. Então, muito obrigado.
yeah,
Eu agradeço pela oportunidade, agradeço o John pela tradução, agradeço você, Ian, e a toda a sua equipe por esse apoio e essa oportunidade da minha primeira palestra e em inglês.
Thanks everyone for the opportunity, and me, but also you, Ian, and all the team for the host his speech.
Yeah, it's fine, and I can't imagine that my first presentation in Portuguese would be anywhere near as good. So
Eu não imagino a primeira apresentação dele ser boa em português.
people
I
are
think we will, Ian. I think
what is that? Good music. Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. I'm going to let you go, and because we're going to go on and do some other stuff. But obrigado, my friends, and I will hopefully see you later on in the year. If not, we'll bump into each other, and you'll come back next year as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to let them go. I'm going to turn. Ooh, I've made Diego suddenly huge. There you go. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, it was a great presentation. Now, we've got a little bit of time before we start. So I just want to talk about a few things. First of all, I actually forgot to put Diego and Dion's site up, but they have a website as well. But for those of you that ask about replays, first of all, the first thing that happened was this morning when we started, there was a little bit of a hiccup. And I'm going to blame producer Martha, but actually it wasn't. It was just the system. But we had a little bit of a hiccup. So the ones that are watching on YouTube now, we started a little bit late. You didn't really miss much because the first 10 minutes or so we're just kind of introducing today's subjects and introducing the guest, but for some reason the live stream didn't kick in on YouTube, so we missed a little bit of it, but we hopefully, I think it auto records anyway, so if it did, then what we'll do is we'll make sure that when we put out the replay that we put that up, and so it gets there. I'm just going to remove my guest from there, and we'll try and make sure that the replay has got the whole 9 yards, everything in it, and that's what happens with streaming sometimes. We've got someone saying some things on here. Next choice, Rad Studio, Milton Keynes, or Slough. Oh God, yeah, no, we're not. We're definitely not going to do Slough. Very famously, Sir John Betjeman wrote a poem that begins, "Come friendly bombs, rain on Slough." So that gives you some idea of what he did and didn't think about Slough. So it was a bit of a problem. But yeah, Milton Keynes. The reason that people laugh about Milton Keynes is it's quite famous in the UK for being full of roundabouts. rotationals or whatever one you call them. It's got 270 something, and I used to live there, and I actually liked it. It's laid out like an American city, grid roads and all the rest of it, and it was really at the cutting edge of technology. It was one of the first new city. It became a city not long ago. The Queen, I think, gave it city status, but it had a brand new phone system that was cutting edge at the time. And then a thing called ADSL was invented, which needed copper wire technology for you to have fast, ubiquitous internet. But the brand new Milton Keynes phone system used aluminium or aluminum cables and couldn't support ADSL. So Milton Keynes dropped behind. There's an example of people picking the wrong horse to back. But Milton Keynes, yeah, I'd love there to be a rad studio Milton Keynes, but I don't think that would ever happen. It's going to be Florence for the next one, which is good. So if you want to know about all the sessions that are on, go to the AI Codecamp website. We are going to have replays of everything, and I think Haggott, which is one of my colleagues, he works on the marketing and writing team. He's one of our writers. He's doing summaries each day, so there's a blog post of a summary each day of what's gone on, so you won't miss anything. And the one that you really don't want to miss is the next session, which is coming up shortly. We're going to do it on the hour. She's joined early because she's very enthusiastic like that and well competent. But it's going to be the next session after this, not just right now, but it's going to be with a good friend of mine. She's an MVP, but she's also a Stack Overflow moderator. And her topic is going to be a conversation with me saying, or really discussing, first of all, the impact of AI in general. She's like me, she's an optimist, but I think it's fair to say she's a careful optimist, a skeptic in some areas, as I am, but also an optimist. She can see as a technologist that there's a future there, but she's also believes that I don't think you should blindly trust AI, and I definitely agree with that point of view. So her topic for the conversation is AI the answer, or is it a solution we've invented and it's looking for a problem to solve? And I think that's where we're at really with AI at the moment, is that when you get things like this, which is I'm just going to pull it up. David AI's original post at David I, not AI. There you go. David AI's original poster looked like that, and then using Chat GPT, I think he said he used, or Copilot actually, he produced that version, and he basically gave it a prompt that said, convert this image in the style of I think, I can't remember exactly what he said. Let me just see if I can find it. Because he had a specific prompt that he said. He said, create it in a Pixar style of bitmap. And actually, this is kind of relevant to the topic at the moment. I would say that is a Pixar style image. And therein lies the problem, that I believe OpenAI and a few others are actually being sued by Disney at the moment, and a few other companies, Industrial Light and Magic and a few others, I believe. I'm not sure. And they're suing them for plagiarism because, that looks like it was created by Pixar. And it wasn't. It was created by AI. Now, he actually goes on further than this to create a video, and I can show you exactly the video that he creates. Let me just see if I can add this in. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. He went and said to it, create a video. So take that image, remember it was a static image, and create a video. And this is the video.
Delphi is awesome because of its combination of modern object Pascal, visual components, database access, multi-platform targeting, high-speed native code compiler, and an active global community.
Now that doesn't exist. That was something that he created. How do I get rid of it now? That's the only problem. something that he created from scratch, and just told the AI, oh, just you know, create a Pixar style video, create a Pixar style image, which is this one, and then animate it, and it's a very convincing animation. Now, if you had sufficient tokens, as they call it, token space to do it, you could animate the entire video of me now and probably do a much more competent job and remove all the ums and ahs. And in fact, one of our MVPs, another one of our MVPs, did exactly that. He took a screenshot of this presentation and looked very carefully behind the scenes of what you see behind me here. The camera's struggling because of where I put my hand. But you can see my stuff that's going on. And if I put my camera up a little bit, you can see I have what's called a mood board behind me because I'm a designer and a bit weird like that. I have a Delphi helmet, and I have a R2-D2 from Star Wars, and that's my childhood teddy bear. This is a skull that says Wilson on it, for those of you that's ever watched Castaway, and a propeller head hat from Google, a Union Jack flag, because I'm obviously British, even though I'm American, and a bobblehead of Sheldon Cooper. Now, commit that to memory, and Dave Nottage, MVP extraordinaire, took a screenshot and then said, create a Pixar style image, and look, there you can see in the background the Delphi helmet, the R2-D2 slightly skewed. It's not in the same angle. I haven't changed that since he did it. The teddy bear in the background, the child's toy, which was my childhood toy, is not exactly the same style. It's a panda, but it's got brown fur. The bobblehead is turned it into a image in a picture frame, but it's actually a proper bobblehead. And then the sign, it's changed the text on the sign. So my sign says, it was a gift from my daughter or my ex-wife, I think. No one says my name right, because actually in America, 50% of people can't say the word Ian properly for some reason, even though there are Americans called that. And then it's changed the text of that and says, I can explain it, but I can't understand it for you, which is actually a kind of geeky phrase, but it's correct. And then, of course, it's also got the Union Jack, and it's skewed it so the Union Jack is a bit more visible. But my plant in the background, which by the way is artificial, is correct. And even the chair, the text on the chair, it spotted the RI. I must have been sitting like that when it did it, but it spotted the RI and got that, which is the brand name of the chair that I happen to be sitting in, Lemberry. But it's got my ukulele and all the other things. Would you now tell me honestly, those people in the chat at the moment, can you honestly say that hang on one second, we've got a spammer again. Can you honestly say that, you know, 5 years ago you would have thought that was possible to do an image that effectively as a Pixar style thing? I mean, my daughter is a graphic designer. She's got a degree in it, a very competent artist as well. I've got some paintings of hers around here somewhere, but I think she would struggle to do such a good job as that. You know, very realistic. Someone says that R2-D2 looks like a Lego build, but still cool nonetheless. It is a Lego build. Well spotted, Meltdown Shark Haven. It is actually Lego. Yes, and the reason it's Lego is because of the Danish user group. I went to Denmark. I've got to handle it carefully because it's made out of Lego. But I went to the Danish user group as one of their speakers, and they gave me this as a gift. They tried to get a Star Wars one because everybody, Star Trek one, because everybody knows that I'm actually an out-and-out Star Trek fan. But they couldn't find any Star Trek ones, so they got me the Star Wars one instead. That was the nearest they could get. But I do like Star Wars as well. But I'm an absolute Star Trek fan. Come on, focus on me, Cameron. You can do it. Yeah, that was in the Danish user group. So there you go. But it's a remarkable thing. Why my camera suddenly gone all blurry? Hello, camera, focus on me. There you go. Oh well, maybe I'm going to be blurry for now. Oh, no, it's not going to autofocus back. How annoying. Well, there you go. That's AI for you, because AI autofocus as well. So all this time filling is really just to get to the point of where we're going to go. I think we'll probably start a little bit earlier, as long as she's okay. Oh, a Meltdown Shark Haven says I'm a Lego geek. Actually, I'll tell you a little insider secret here. It's not really a big secret, but I will tell you something that's interesting. There you go. Maybe it'll focus on me a bit better now. Come on, computer. And that is that most of you probably know who Marco Cantu is. And Marco Cantu is an absolute Lego fanatic. And I mean like crazy fanatic about it. And he travels around Italy and various other European cities to go to Lego conventions. So if you ever want to talk Lego, he's your man. Because Lego's all right, but I have zero patience. I mean, that ukulele behind there, I've been learning that ukulele for 10 years now, and I still can't play it because I'm like, oh, I give up and then go and put it back. I can play the drums though, the bongos and the boran and things like that. So I do have some patience, but not a lot. Anyway, so we're going to kick off a little bit early for our next session, I think, because she's sitting there patiently whilst I just talk nonsense. But we're going to have joining me our guest. Are you ready? I think she's going to not. Yeah, she seems like she's ready. Okay. And that is MVP and Stack Overflow moderator and general good author as well, because you've got a few books as well out. Is it 4 now? I forget how many you got.
4.
4. There you
4.
go. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't say, is it 5 now? Because then you have to go, no, I've only got 4.
Only 4. Yes, hello everyone.
Yeah. So those of you that don't know Dahlia, shame on you. But this is her website here. And she is, how can I put this delicately without insulting you, but at the same time complimenting you? Dahlia is one of these people where we have our private MVP groups where we discuss various topics. And sometimes we have little chats and things like that about, I don't know, multi-threading or something like that. And Dahlia is very, very, you have some strong opinions on some things. And I always like, yeah, go Dahlia, because you're one of these people who go, no, you're completely wrong. And here's why. Is that true? Is that, or am I being unfair to you there?
Well, yes, you cannot have people being wrong on the internet. You have to correct them.
Yeah, I mean, I've known you for a few years now, and it was only, you've been a moderator for a year now, is that right? Is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
A little more over a year.
Yeah. So whilst we're talking, I'm going to put Stack Overflow's link up here as well. I don't know if people wouldn't know Stack Overflow. I mean, to me, it's as a developer, it's one of those sites where really people should go to it. I mean, it's designed as a good quality question and answer site. And I think it's, one of the criticisms of Wikipedia, for example, is that Wikipedia is supposed to be a community encyclopedia. That's why it came around. The idea would be that you would throw enough people at it that the truth of a particular subject and the facts of a particular subject would bubble to the top. I think Stack Overflow takes a slightly different approach. Is that right? I mean, they actually moderate it to make sure the quality is good.
Yes, that is the primary purpose of moderation there, and quality control and voting and downvoting, as well as closing questions and removing content that is not of high quality, is that you have selected and curated content on which you can rely on. And this is one of the primary reasons of Stack Overflow's success in the beginning, because of its moderation. And I don't know, at that point in time, there was nothing of sort. There was expert exchange which was not free, but you have to jump through the hoops to get, or you have to pay something. I don't know. I never used it, so. But
I think it was free, but well, I don't know actually, because now you mention it, I don't hardly ever use it
I
either.
don't remember, but I
know
never
it was
used
a pain in the neck to register. I remember that much. Yeah.
Yes, you had to go through several levels of indirection to get to what you need. And one of the advantages of Stack Overflow is that its license is Creative Commons, so you free to use with attribution, and you could Google indexed it well, and you could go directly from Google search to you type some problem you're having, and you would usually land on Stack Overflow because you had the answers there. So most people would not use it directly. You wouldn't type Stack Overflow and go to their home page, but you would type something into Google, and you would find it in the search results, and you would land on answers, and which would help you.
And there's a reputation score as well, isn't there, for users? I think that if someone answers a question, you've got like a little reputation thing that basically says this person, take what they say with a pinch of salt because their reputation's like pretty low, whereas this person has got massive reputation, therefore they might not be right, but the chances are they are right. You know, I think
yes. And another thing, I don't know why it happened, but it happened. It attracted experts from all areas. So you have every programmer was there at the time. Now maybe not that much. Some people left, or new people are coming. You have some influx of people, or you always have some people coming, some people leaving, and stuff like that. But you had experts in the area who participated there. You have people who are working and creating compilers and developing technology you were working with, who would answer your questions there. And with Embarcadero and Delphi, you had their people also there who would answer questions. You had Marco Cantu, you had Jim McKeith, you had Alan Bauer, Barry Kelly.
yeah.
So we had
anybody. I mean, there were quite often people that worked on the compiler.
Yes.
You know, like people that nobody ever knows exists because, you know, Embarcadero were bald and even kept them very much behind the scenes, and then they would go and answer questions. And a lot of people didn't realize that actually these guys, they didn't just work on the product, they were the product. What came
Yes,
out of their head was the product. And when they answered a question, you were getting, you know, the genuine article answering the question for you. And
yes, that is very important.
Yeah, and I personally, I think that Stack Overflow is a very, very useful resource. I've had a few poor experiences with it, which we can talk about in a moment. But overall, I think it's essential, and I think it's like Wikipedia and PBS, you know, in the US, which are public TV libraries. You know, I'm a very big supporter of libraries. I have library books all around me. As you can see, I have books behind me as well. And as an author, of course, you think books are important. And I think the Stack Overflow is in that kind of level of importance. It's something that should exist. And I think that the fact it has existed has made my life better because I have often gone to Stack Overflow and there's an answer that has helped me out of a hole, you know, where I've been stuck on something. I've also answered the questions, not many, because you know life's too short. But but I have answered questions. But I don't think I've asked that many questions because I'm pretty good. So no, but Stack Overflow is good. But let me ask you this question because AI has actually had an impact on forums like Stack Overflow. Even Reddit is suffering some issues with AI as well. How is it? Do you feel, as someone that's obviously quite heavily involved with Stack Overflow as a moderator, you're there moderating questions? what has the impact of AI been on things like Stack Overflow, and where do you think it's going to go?
Well,
Good direction, bad direction, or a little bit of both?
well, nobody can predict the future, but
Well,
there are few things that are happening. First, not as many questions are being asked right now. There is a steady decrease in the questions because people are now finding them easier with the AI, of course. And from the perspective of a power user or moderator or curator, expert, this is not a bad thing. Of course, it is a bad thing for Stack Overflow as a company because they are not getting the traffic they are used to. But from our perspective, from the perspective of library and maintaining that library of knowledge, it is easier to do that because you don't have that much questions asked which are not of high quality or which are repeated questions. We are closing those as duplicates.
I think it's a problem, because I think that the trouble is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the ChatGPT and various other LLMs were trained using Stack Overflow
Yes,
questions.
they were
Well,
they were
can anybody see the problem there? Because if Stack Overflow eventually dies because nobody uses it, what's going to happen with the ChatGPT? Because knowledge is not a static thing. You don't get to the point where there's this level of knowledge on Delphi, for example. It's an evolving language, but new. Even if the language didn't come out with new language features and new things the IDE could do, people come up with new ways of doing old things. So what's going to happen then? The LLM is created.
well.
It's based
Yes,
on.
they LLMs cannot. There is no intelligence in the artificial intelligence as we know it, and the large
Artificial
language models.
unintelligence.
Yes. So there is a problem. There will be a problem if Stack Overflow or sites like that. This is not the only place. Stack Exchange has other sites, and one of the things that distinguishes Stack Overflow from some other places on the internet where you can find some knowledge, because it is a concentrated place where you have experts of all kinds. That is the first thing. And the next thing is that we don't allow AI content to be posted there. And we are removing it heavily. All kinds of AI content. So you are not allowed to post fully generated content. You are not allowed to edit AI content and post it. You are not allowed to use it for translation, for wording your own content. So no AI of any kind is not is allowed there. So from that perspective, we are heavily moderating that part, and of course, people are not agreeing with this, but this is conscious decision. This is as it should be, because we are trying to protect that place and to leave it for the humans, for people, for the experts, so they can answer the questions and not some AI. Because if you let people post AI, we would drown in the flood of AI garbage. You cannot prevent that.
It's funny you said that, because there's a comment here by Andrew Spencer, who's been on a few of these things, which is, this was now, and I mean, I can't speak for what he's saying, whether it's true or not, but I assume he's correct. There was a news article I read that said original content becomes less, and the AI starts to train on AI generated content, which is exactly what you're saying. Is that, and I'll give you an example, a parallel to this, which is, for example, let's say you love sushi, and you really like tuna, and so you eat a lot of tuna sushi or sashimi, and so they keep fishing. And tuna take a long time to grow, to get to the size where they're edible. I mean, if they were that big, they'd be pointless. But like many fish out there, cod being another example, it's very popular, and we had to introduce quotas around the world so that people wouldn't eat all of the cod or eat all of the tuna. And the reason is that it's one of these feedback mechanisms. And now what you're talking about there is that the original content is the tuna or the codfish. The AI really loves to eat that. It is its staple food. But the problem is, just like overfishing, the AI is like the fisherman overfishing the original knowledge until you get to the point where now there's only artificial crab and artificial tuna and all these other things left. So the artificial news, artificial content becomes the original content, but it's feeding back on itself.
Yes, but one of the problems with such content when LLMs are being trained on LLM content, on AI content, is that eventually the models collapse because they have no original content left
Yeah,
to.
I mean, Milan is saying here, well, Stack Overflow is not the only fountain of knowledge. No, it's not. But the problem here is that the AIs are so immensely powerful in terms of them sucking in knowledge that it doesn't matter actually how many original sources of information you've got, unless that's constantly being renewed. If the AI replaces it or causes it to be, no longer viable for Stack Overflow and anybody else to continue,
Yes.
where's
Well,
the content from?
we have a bigger problem, I think, with AI. It is not just the content that is being posted online and content on which AI can train, but for future generations, I mean, for today's learners and fresh developers, they are not learning properly. So you have people are saying that AI will replace junior developers, but you need
Maybe.
junior developers because those junior developers will grow to be a professional developers, to be senior.
We don't want
to be
everybody looking like me,
And
Yeah,
if you skip that step of being a junior developer, when you are learning in a proper way, when you are solving problems on your own, when you are using your own brain, your own skills, and learning by doing simple stuff, then you will not have any sufficiently trained developers in the future who will be able to replace those older developers who, of course, will age out and will not longer be working. So this is the problem for future generations. And
yeah. I mean, some people say, well, that's because developers will change to become prompt engineers, and so they will get better at telling the AI what it is they want to see. But the thing is, that's still a skill. You've
yes,
still
but
got to have someone who's got the
even,
experience of
even
looking
with
at the
the
program
skill,
and go, this is what we want the program to do. You don't just learn that by going to college. You have to go off and understand what you want the AI to do at a level that is far more technical and complex than just looking at it from the outside.
yes,
It's like learning to bake a cake by looking through the windows of a cake shop. You can't do that. You've got to actually, understand what goes into it. Even if you're going to go and tell a junior baker how to make that cake, you
yes,
still need
yes.
to understand how to do that.
And we have a bigger problem because there is no intelligence in AI, and it doesn't create anything that it hasn't seen. Yes, it will, of course, it will generate something new. It isn't there's it will not just copy paste everything. You don't get exact output for inputs. But this is like having 1,000 monkeys typing on a keyboard. Yes, you might get a Shakespeare novel at one point, but there is no original thought there. There is nothing of substance, no progress, and nothing upon which you can build something. So This is just reiterating old content, old stuff, all things that we already know. And it is great for the stuff which is we have in abundance. For instance, if you are a JavaScript developer, or you will think that it can do everything because it has been trained on so many data, and it can write almost anything you need in JavaScript. But especially if you are doing some common stuff. But for Delphi, or for some other languages, and even for some harder problems, you don't have that code. You don't have you can AI cannot solve the problems for you, so you have to do it. And if you lose the skill to learn and to understand the code and do things yourself, then you cannot solve the problems on your own. And on Stack Overflow, we are also seeing that many people are coming there with their problems. And one of the things they say is, I have tried everything. I have tried AI and I failed. It doesn't know how to solve my problem. So,
yeah. Or they don't know how to tell it to solve the problem as well.
yes.
And that's the other problem, is that, there's I don't know whether this works in your country, but in America, there's a thing called the Rumsfeld paradox. Donald Rumsfeld was a controversial politician, but he had a very interesting thing, which he says there are known knowns, things we know. There are known unknowns, things we know we don't know. And then there are unknown unknowns, things we don't know. And this is the problem with AI, is there are things that you don't know. So if you are reasonably competent as a developer and you ask the AI something, you've got to know what it is you don't know, and you think the AI will know. And I know that sounds complicated, there's a lot of words "know" in there, but really what it boils down to is that you've actually got to understand a topic enough to be able to go to the AI and say, I want it to do this, this, and this. I need it to use TCP/IP or something like that, in the background. You can't just say to it, create me a web browser. It will create you a web browser, but it will do it in a way that is like every other single web browser out there. What it won't do is, put some special technology behind it, unless you know that's what you want to put in the web browser that you ask it to create. And by the way, Marco Shriek, interesting name, says how right Dahlia is. He spelled your name wrong, but that's okay. It took me years to learn how to spell your name correctly. Nobody spells my name right in America, so there you go. But I think this is a good point, because I want to call this out as well. I'm going to just put the Stack Overflow URL up here. It is literally stackoverflow.com, by the way, for those that don't know. But go there, and there is a survey running at the moment. If you're watching this webinar live, or maybe the day after it's live, you should go and fill that survey out, because there's a couple of interesting things about it. First of all, most of I'd say 3/4 of the questions on that survey are about AI. So obviously, whoever produced that survey, it's on their mind. Well, why wouldn't it be? It's the big topic. But Milan says, on the Stack Overflow survey, they asked what I thought would become the sought-after skills in the next 5 years, and he answered liberal arts, creativity, and application domain expertise. And I think that's a very good point, is that maybe the role of developer is evolving with the AI's evolution as well. Whether it comes to a good solution is another matter, but I think that is a fact. But on the Stack Overflow survey, by the way, it talks about rising technologies, and I nearly cried with happiness when I saw it, because it actually described RAD Studio as a rising technology. I don't know where it got that from, but
Well,
I'm very glad it did.
I know how it got there.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Please
it is
don't tell me
Delphi 12 tag. It used the most used recently created tags, and this is Delphi 12. We tag questions with Delphi, and we also tag it with a version. So newly created tag, which has a lot of traffic, was Delphi 12. So this is how
Wow.
we got it.
I'm even more happy now. That's really great.
Yes.
I mean,
You have JavaScript, you have Java, you have Swift, you
I've
have
never heard of those
Sharp,
languages. Nobody would ever use
everything
that.
else, but those are not new tags. So this is why they took it like it is a new technology. It is not new technology, but
No,
it
but it is
gave
one
it a
that's
bit.
rising, and that's the important thing.
Yes, it is.
And I think the thing is as well that we get these people say Delphi's a dinosaur and all the rest of it. And I pointed out that in some of these surveys where you talk about the top 10 programming languages, 7 out of the 10 were actually older than Delphi. Delphi is not a new language, but it's actually JavaScript's older. Python is older, and C++ and all the rest of it. They're all older than Delphi. I don't know why they think of us as a dinosaur. It's just prejudice as much as anything. But there you go.
Yes.
AT says
Especially
big bosses.
when they say that Java is newer than Delphi, and it was.
Do you know what you're talking about?
Yes.
So if you're watching, people, go to stackoverflow.com or scan this QR code, fill out the survey, please, because especially if you use Delphi, say you use Delphi, because it helps us by making sure that people realize that Delphi is in use. It's so frustrating because I meet tens of thousands of people around the world, and I get hundreds of emails every day from people using Delphi, and it's used in airports, it's used on TV advertising, it's used absolutely everywhere, and you don't know it. Most people watching this webinar, I'm going to look directly down the camera. Nearly all of you watching this webinar right now with myself and Dahlia, nearly every single one of you has probably interacted and not known it with the Delphi program today. That is almost a fact. You probably didn't realize it, but Delphi has touched your life. Banking, a bus timetable, train timetable, overhead announcements at a railway station, even the planning of traffic lights and stuff like that. There are Delphi programs out there that are doing that, and they're used everywhere. The space European Space Agency, ESA, they use Delphi. Nuclear power stations, I know some of those use Delphi. It's absolutely everywhere. It just doesn't go wrong enough for people to notice. We all know when there's a .NET program because there's a bloody great big error message comes up, goes, sorry, your program's crashed. But Delphi doesn't do that. So I mean, it does.
Yes, it crashes, but it doesn't tell you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it does go wrong, but you can write bad programs in any language, but it's harder in a good language. So AT says big bosses think that AI can write any code from existing code blocks, like composing any music using 7 notes and 12 octaves. Yeah.
Not really. Yes, that is a problem because people think that AI can write code and can read documents. It can summarize it for you. It can write your letters. It can communicate instead of you. But there is a problem with that because it will write things wrong pretty much all the time. So when you're coding, the best thing it can happen that the code you get, it won't compile. But the greatest problem is when it compiles, but you have some bad code in it. And you have to consider about security implications, and even you can go bankrupt because of it. There was a guy who wipe coded some Firebase application, something like that. and Google delivered about $120,000 bill for it over matter of days, because he had some bugs in the code, and the guy was not a programmer at all, so he just took the pieces from what AI gave him. Of course, you can do errors like this and mistakes like that, even if you are a developer. You can do it on your own. You don't need AI to write bad code, and you don't need AI to copy paste some bad answer on Stack Overflow and or some other source. But the AI makes those things easier, so you can more easily shoot yourself in the foot with AI.
Yeah. And that's a fact. And I tell you something else as well, which is one thing I have said before, which is, if you have a junior programmer, they're just fresh out of college or maybe even out of school or something, but they're new, and they're shiny and new, and you know they're new because you can tell, and they come along and they start writing code, and you give them a diagram or a bunch of notes or something like that, and say, "Oh, produce me this," and they check their coding, and you look at the code and you're like, oh, because straight away you can see they've made this mistake and that mistake, and their code is naive. And I know this sounds a bit elitist to say that, but that's one of the signs of a senior developer, is that the code is not quite as clunky, chunky. Senior developers have got slightly more refined ways of writing code, not because they're better, they've just been doing it for longer. It's like someone throwing a knife at a wall. If they practice it long enough, they do a very good job of it, whereas the first time you do it, it bounces off or something. And it's the same with code. So the junior developers, you look at him like, oh dear, he's done this, he's formatted it in a weird way, or she's done that and formatted this. But the problem with AI is it's plausible when you see it, because it's copied the style of someone that did know what they're doing. It hallucinates quite often some functions for Delphi that don't even exist.
Yes.
And so you're looking through the code, and when it hallucinates, that's good, because you can spot that error, because it comes up and says there's no such error called, I don't know, console.log or something, because it's stolen it from JavaScript and got it completely wrong. But when it doesn't do that, and the code compiles, as you said, the danger there is that, zero errors, zero warnings, great, it's good code. But we all know, as long-time developers, that's when you really fool yourself.
Yes, and another problem with explaining code, or with writing documentation, or writing summaries or similar things, is that AI will hallucinate even there. So it can explain something and it will look plausible if you're not an expert. And this is one thing I repeat often. If you are the expert and you know what is correct and incorrect answer, then you can write the answer yourself. You don't need AI to write an answer for you on Stack Overflow or wherever you are doing something. But if you don't know the answer to some question, or you don't know how to solve some problem, then you will not have the knowledge, and you will not be able to recognize mistakes in what AI gave you. And you will not be able to recognize mistakes in explanations. So you might learn something, you might think that something works in a way that it doesn't work. And this is a problem for everyone. Of course, there are bigger and smaller problems with that, but this is a problem. And today's generations of developers and people, not just developers, it will be a problem all across board, in different for different people and different jobs, and because people will learn things that are not true, because AI will tell them that. And there was at some point, I don't know, it was about 2 years ago or something like that, Mozilla Developer Network started doing AI summaries of their documents, and they were wrong, very much wrong. So
Yeah.
people will go there for some explanation or some code, some instructions, and they would read the AI summary because it was shorter than reading the detailed document, and that summary was wrong.
Yeah.
And that created problems, and of course they removed AI after that. But
Yeah. Someone was it was a customer that wrote to me and was saying that they for .NET they're multi discipline software house. So they have .NET people, they have Delphi people, they have Python people, and he was telling me, oh yeah, we have our .NET guys are using AI to generate code, and they're 10 times more productive. And then he said we produce 100 times more code. I think that's what he said. I can't remember, but anyway, it was some extravagant figure. He was trying to convince me that there was a good reason why, and I was kind of skeptical. So he was really trying to push the boat out and say, hey, it's more effective to use AI. But the trouble with that is that if you suddenly producing 10 times the amount of code, you've now got 10 times the problem to check that code. Now tomorrow we do have Der Scanner here, who do actually have automated testing and scanning. They do vulnerability scanning, and actually the video tomorrow by Valerie shows some AI involved in that, which actually is quite effective. It does find some problems in code that perhaps I wouldn't have spotted, even with unit tests and things like that. But I don't know, if you suddenly make 5 people able to do the work of 50, you still need 50 people to check the work of the 50 imaginary people. There's or a very good system that checks it. And as you said, if what it checks looks right but isn't,
yes,
then you've got another problem. You just, AI will improve. I'm sure it will get better, and it will get better at producing better results. But we've still got the fundamental problem of it not being, creative, or needing someone to guide it. And then once it's guided you, into making an app, they've still got to have some way of reviewing it. And if that requires AI to do that, then you've got AI checking the output of AI. And again, can nobody else see the problem there? It's like a feedback loop. So it's like getting a student to write some code and giving it to another student to check it. I mean, nobody would think that was a good idea. You're going to want the senior developer to check it and make sure. I don't know.
Yeah, when you write your code, you know that code. You know why you wrote each line of that code. You understand it. Okay, maybe junior developers, when they copy something from somewhere, will not, but they will learn in time. So you understand the code you're writing, and this is not a matter of being able to read that code, being nice code or not nice. Delphi is rather readable code and easily readable, so you can write nice code, but you can write nice code in other languages too. But that is not a problem. The problem is that the code you didn't write, even if you can read it and understand it, you need more time to understanding than the code you wrote yourself. So when you have to check some code that somebody else wrote or AI wrote, you will spend more time understanding, or you will do it very superficially. So, okay, this looks good, it compiles, it runs, it looks like it is working, but you may have problems with that code. And you will never know whether this code is good or not. Of course, you can test that code, but there is another problem. You will have AI writing tests, and it is rather good with that part. So you can devise test cases. You can help yourself in that area, especially if you don't have a lot of tests written. You can help make your code covered with tests better with help of AI, because
AI is very good. I mean, I think what we're both saying is a similar thing, which is AI has got the potential to be very useful as a helper, and very useful for speeding up processes and for helping maybe increase efficiency, but you shouldn't blindly rely on it and think it's the answer to all your problems.
Yes,
And
yes.
that you can just get someone who doesn't know what they're doing suddenly to become magically a programmer, even though really they're actually, you know, they
No,
clean
you
cars or
still
something.
have
They've
to
never
pay
touched a program
attention.
in their life, you know.
Yeah, you still have to pay attention to everything AI does. So you can. I have written some tests for my code with AI, and it works well.
Yeah,
But about half of the tests are not useful because they were set up wrong. They have wrong expectations, so they fail when they shouldn't, or they pass when they shouldn't. So there are problems. But I've solved some bugs with the help of AI in some code, or some old code which was not tested, and for other simple things. But the problem is, even with that with when it helps you, you have to be careful and make sure that you covered all your bases. So it will write you 5 tests, but maybe you need 10 to cover that code. So you will still have loopholes there, but you will have a false sense of security. You'll think, okay, I have covered that code. Of course, you can always run some code coverage and see whether the code is covered with tests and similar things. But the code coverage alone is not enough to know that your code is properly functioning.
yeah.
So,
And again, this is down to experience that maybe AI doesn't. I mean, there's going to be that kind of problem domain, as they call it, to use jargon, where AI is not going to be very good at. And I want to take a slightly different tangent here because you've written, as we said at the start, 4 books, and you're a very good author, by the way. In fact, I have a couple of your books behind me, I think, and I think I get ebooks as well. But and as you may or may not know, I'm a voice actor, so I've done voiceovers on books and things like that, and you know, recorded them for Audible and a few other things as well. And I stopped doing that mainly because it's very time consuming. You know, for every hour of audio that you record, it's 4 hours of effort because you have to record the audio. You maybe stumble over a word, or you know, you completely mispronounce something. Or I remember one author, he wrote about mochi, which is a Japanese kind of ice creamy sort of thing. It's actually paste that's pounded. It's chew. I don't like it myself, but I'd never eaten it and I'd never seen the word written down. But it's Mochi, so it looks like mochi. And I just read it and said, "Oh, mochi," and it made me re-record it 5 times. It kept sending me a pronunciation guide, and I never got it right until the very end. And then, but that's the voice of a. That's the problem of a audio narrator, is that you know, you have to deal with weird pronunciation. But as an author as well, because I've written a few books and poetry books and a few other things. I stopped doing it partially because of the time required to do the audio, but also because there was a big rise in AI created books, and you could tell almost that, because this was a couple of years ago, you could tell straight away it was terrible. You know, someone had obviously given an outline to the book and said, create me a book about a dragon and a child that flies or something. And that's what it does. It creates a children's book. And it was credible. I mean, the English was correct, but it was boring as hell. And, you know, you're like reading it through and you're like, no, I'm not going to do this.
yeah.
Because I used to do, you know, kids' books and voices and things like that. But now when I go back and look at the Audible catalog and also the marketplaces for people like me who do those voiceovers, it's full of books that are very low quality, but a
Yes.
lot of content there, and it is all quite obviously AI generated. Does that concern you as an author? Do you think that's going to be
No, because like with the answers on Stack Overflow, people will learn. people know how to recognize AI. Not everyone is that good in recognizing it. This depends on the person, but people recognize AI, and at some point you don't trust things that were written with AI. So I'm doing it all the time. Okay, this is influenced with me being a Stack Overflow moderator, so I have deleted thousands and thousands of AI answers. And
Wow.
when I land on something that is written, when I recognize AI, my brain just shuts off and I stop reading it because it is not worth my time reading it.
Yeah.
This is automatic reaction because I'm moderating such a huge amount of content. But yes,
I mean,
this is
that
the
is a problem
problem.
for moderators as well, isn't it?
Yes, this is the problem for people who are using AI to write something. Even if they have expertise, even if they have written something themselves and they just use it for formatting or rewording, rephrasing, or something like that, they lose their authenticity and their own voice, and they will be recognized as AI authors, and not as humans. So this is the problem for people, for everyone who is thinking about writing something. They should do it on their own and not use AI for that,
I
because this is the problem, because people are recognizing it and they are not trusting the content that is written by AI. And this is not just that experts are not trusting such content. You have beginners who recognize when something is written by AI and they don't want to read it.
Yeah,
I mean,
in fact, I'm trying
this
to
is
find an
not.
article I read, which I can't find now because I saved all the Pocket, which was a really great utility that you used to be able to save articles. They closed down. I use Instapaper now, which is really good. But I've been saving stuff about AI in preparation for this week. Where is it now? There was an article where it was saying that some school had got a massive increase in students cheating with using AI, and that it actually had got to the point where the school just couldn't cope because there were so many kids that are just going, I'll use ChatGPT to answer my homework question.
Yes.
And you know, I assume that the school is, as AI gets better, you know, the large language models get better at English and become more subtle in the answers that they give, that people like yourself as moderators and people in the school who are moderating I wish I could find the article because it was really a fascinating article, but it's going to get harder because if ChatGPT does improve to the point where it's almost impossible to spot the AI, is that a good?
Well, it is easier to spot it than you think. It is easier to spot it than you think, and
Right.
I have dealt with some harder cases on Stack Overflow, and you can always spot it. You can see it. So teachers, of course, if teacher is not good at recognizing an AI, then they will have a problem. But you can recognize the AI pretty good. Even if it gets better, it still has patterns which you can recognize, so you cannot avoid that completely.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could find that article. It's going to bug me now. You bet. I guarantee the minute we stop broadcasting, I'll find it straight away. but yeah, I mean, I think this is the thing that the problem with teachers is that most teachers I know in the United States, I don't know whether it's true in other countries, but you know, in the United States, just one second. See, that's how you know I'm not an AI robot, because the AI robot would never choke on their own words. But yeah, most school teachers I know have got very little time, and they, in the United States, they tend to do the marking of homework after school in the evening, sitting in front of the TV or in the kitchen or so, in their own time. And I don't know how they factor the pay in, or whether they get paid for that time, but they don't have a lot of time to look through the kids' work, and if it's a long essay, to go, yes, this is AI or not, unless it's quite obvious. And you know, they always used to be able to spot kids that had copied each other, because the brain's very good at recognizing patterns. So when you read through one article that's written by a kid who you know is not smart, should we say, let's be polite, and you think, come on, this kid can barely spell his name, and yet he's written a very good article about, I don't know, chemistry or something. And then you spot the smart kid in the class who has written a very similar article. You think they copied off each other. But with AI, yeah, unless it makes, I mean, as a poet, a published poet, when the AI first came out, everybody started getting it to write nursery rhymes and kids, poems for people's birthdays and weddings, and all of the AI made very similar mistakes on certain lines of the poems, and I'll be like, that's an AI. Someone's used AI for that. And it was the same thing. It was just experience of, I read a lot of poetry. I used to go into schools and teach it in Nebraska and things like that. So I've seen a lot of people write poetry. And so when I see an AI poem, some of them, yeah, they're difficult. You're not quite sure, but some of them, it was just obvious.
Yes.
That it was
It's
AI.
recognizable. And well, on one hand, this is a problem for people who use it for translating things. This is one thing where AI is really good. It is in translations. So when people use it for translations, and this is a place where it really helps. It can help. It is so good in those translations comparing to Google Translate. We were all joking about how bad Google Translate is sometimes. But with AI, it is really good at translations. And this is rather hard for me when I have to delete something which is possibly only translated by someone who doesn't know English.
Not
But
allowed.
I have to delete it anyway because it is recognized. I recognize it as AI, and we have no exceptions for this. So in one way, it is allowing communication between people, which was impossible before. But on the other hand, it also creates problem for those people. First, they start to rely on AI translations more than they are writing or reading on their own. So again, their own skills are suffering for that. So it is always better to use it just as much as you need, if you really need it in some places, but that you continue practicing and continue developing your own skills, regardless of what skills those are.
One of
Just
our MPs,
which can help you, but you shouldn't rely on it too much, because you will lose your own skill set, or you will never learn something new.
Yeah. And actually, I can say that's a fact, because I learned French by ear. I got taught it at school, but I forgot it all. As the minute I left school, that was it. My French went out of my head. But I've had a weird life. And at one point, I used to look after a French grandmother. It wasn't my grandmother, it was somebody else's grandmother, but that's how they used to refer to the French grandmother. And she had dementia, so she didn't know she lived in England. And so she only spoke French. So when I was looking after her as a carer, helping out, I used to have to speak French to her. And so my French improved immensely, because she doesn't speak any English. And so every day I was speaking French to her, saying, it's time for your medicine and things like that. And once you stopped speaking French every day, because she passed away eventually, she was 97, so it wasn't a surprise. But once she died, I wasn't, having to speak French every day. And now, 30 years later, I hardly ever speak French to anybody. So it's completely gone out of my head. And it's the same thing with coding. If you don't do it every single day, then you start to get rusty until eventually you're not as good as you were 10 years ago. It's a weird thing, but it's like riding a bicycle. Yeah, you never forget how to ride a bicycle, but you get better at it if you do it every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like this with every skill you have. For instance, I'm using English in writing every day, so I'm very good in writing. But when I have to speak, it is a bit harder. Not that much, but I don't have that much practice in speaking.
Of course.
If I do it every day, then I would improve in speaking also.
You speak excellent English anyway. You always do, and more importantly, your comprehension is very good, which is even better.
Because I think in English basically when it comes to developing.
My stepfather, he passed away. He's dead now, but he was Polish, and he lived in England from 1943, I think, because of the Second World War. And he lived in England all his life, and he still had a very strong Polish accent. It was hilarious, but Cockney Polish accent, London. So it was a weird accent. But I once asked, whenever he spoke on the phone back to people in Poland, they used to laugh, because when he spoke Polish, his Polish had stopped in 1943. He still spoke Polish to his brothers who came into England, but everybody he knew, his family, my mother, who was his wife, me as his stepson, and my sister, who was his stepdaughter, we're all English. So he spoke English every day. But when he spoke on the phone, they'll go, come and listen to Grandpa, because he speaks old-fashioned Polish, like from the 1940s, because the language evolved. But I asked him once, what language do you think in? And he said, when he went to sleep and dreams, he dreams in English.
Well, yes, I'm living in English basically all day, so I have problems when I have to talk in Croatian, in my native language, about development. I don't know how to phrase myself. I don't know words which I have to use. So I had
the weirdest experience a while ago. Obviously, I live in the United States. I live in Dallas, in Texas, and everybody around me is American. My ex-wife is American. My daughter's American, and I don't really ever see any other Brits. And I was talking to someone, I think at the Delphi Summit in Amsterdam, and we were talking about something to do with Delphi, and I said to them, I can't remember the British word for it. It was just the stupidest thing, but it's English, obviously, but there's a very subtle difference, and I couldn't think of what the British people say for this particular word. I only knew the American word for it. It's the weirdest thing, but it is. Yeah, I totally get how. Yeah, it must be a struggle sometimes. Just how do I say that in Croatian again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, my kids are like that. They're also very fluent in English, and we speak English half the time at home. So
I think AI and the internet and all those things have brought us together in a good way. It's made the world smaller. In some ways, it's bad. Facebook, I think, is a particular example of some really unpleasant people who just you didn't know they were horrible until until you heard them talk about something on Facebook. You're like, oh my gosh, that person's a racist. And you never knew, because you were only ever meeting them at I don't know, school concert or something, and then Facebook allowed you to see the unfiltered opinions that they had, and it wasn't one that you necessarily agreed with yourself. But it also means that you and I, for example, can be friends and talk about Delphi programming like that remotely. And it is, most people, when I meet another developer at the Delphi Summit, some of these people, like Frank Lauter, I see him quite often now, but I'd known him for years, and yet we felt like we knew each other like good friends because of the internet. So it's a good thing. but I think that but also, there's some caution. And I want to point out as well, by the way, Dahlia's website here to you watching. You really should go there if you're interested in Delphi. Dahlia writes some really quite incredible books. They're not, some of them, I think it's safe to say, are not for beginners. I think that's not an unfair thing to say. That the one on thread safety, for example, all of the MVPs, there's some very smart MVPs in the MVP group. All of us look towards your books with absolute respect. And really, we don't always agree with everything everybody says, but that's what makes us an MVP. We're like, no, this is a wrong idea. Like 3-0, never ever mention that to Nick Hodges, because you will just never hear the last of it. And I know you have opinions as well. Don't go there. Let's not talk about that. But your books on thread safety and stuff like that are books that really people should, if they're interested in Delphi properly and understanding some real mechanics behind it, that's what we will lose, if AI is the only thing that's allowed. It can come up with some suggestions and stuff like that, but I know the amount of effort that you must have put into writing those books in the first place, coming up with the ideas, researching the topics. You must have spent a lifetime. I'm amazed you're still married, because yeah, I did. Doesn't your husband edit them or something? I forget. He's involved.
No, my son. My
son. That's it. I knew it was one of them. That's how you keep them involved. You see, he's like, come and edit the book.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of effort, and I know that those books, they're not a small undertaking. I'm a professional editor. I edit other people's books, and I know the effort that goes into writing books. So I think if AI pushed people like you aside, and people started believing the hype of AI instead of trusting humans, we're fallible. Humans are broken by default, and that's what makes us interesting. If every single person looked exactly the same, acted exactly the same, spoke the same way, and ate the same food, I think the world would be awful. And that's the thing that worries me. I don't want AI to be going in that direction.
Well, I hope not. Well,
Yeah.
when you're writing something, you have to understand what you're writing about, and you have to go deep into the topic, and you have to understand the mechanism behind, which is something that AI will not always be able to. It will not be able to connect the dots and make the connection when exploring some things. It will know. It will learn from somewhere. It can recognize some patterns in code, and it can explain what that code does and what it should do, but it will not be able to go deep down and go in behind the scenes.
Yeah, maybe it will in the future.
Understand.
Maybe it will, but right now, I'm not so sure it will.
Well, I'm not so sure in the future either, because it has its limits. And there was a few days ago, Apple published a paper which is called Illusion of Thinking.
Yes, I read that paper. Very interesting.
That paper, they are discussing how large language models and large reasoning models, which are newer things, where they are capable, those large reasoning models are capable of thinking in.
They don't reason or rationale. They
yes,
just
they are not reasoning, but they are improvement over the large language models, which are just basically doing some statistics based token generation. So all those models collapse at a certain point of complexity. So they can solve easy problems. And one thing is interesting, that large language models can solve simple problems better than reasoning models. So the model that should be able to do logical reasoning is doing worse than the model that is just supposed to be a chatbot. So this is interesting thing, but they all fail at certain point of complexity. So reasoning models like I think O1 and O3 or ChatGPT, they can solve some problems that large language models alone cannot solve, some medium complexity. But when they have to deal with some really hard problems, they fall apart. So I don't think this will, yes, they will improve, certainly. But I think there is a certain point after which they will not be able to improve anymore, or not sufficiently. So I don't think we will have
I
general
AI.
intelligence as we know it, because intelligence is not just putting words on one place, putting some knowledge, and calling that intelligence. We are starting humans, we are starting as blank slates, we are as kids, but we have a mechanism in our brains. uh, our intelligence is something we are born with, and we are just filling that with knowledge later on. But without that basic operational model, we have that intelligence built in, and large language models and reasoning models and the AI intelligence, they don't have that base operational intelligence. They don't have a model which can learn on its own. And of course, we can say this part will also develop in the future, but we still don't know how this how we are functioning, and this is more complicated than it looks.
I'll give you an example of that. Back in the days when we used to have big TVs, not flat screen, but the old-fashioned ones, and it used to be, I don't know whether it was true for you, but in the 1970s, for example, if the TV picture was not working properly, people would go up and they'd bang the top of the TV, and quite often it would fix the picture. It would just fix the problem, and you'd be like, oh no, and they bang, and it's not good to bang it because it's an electrical, it's a delicate, but you bang the top of the TV and it would fix the picture, and you'd say, oh, what did you do? So, I don't know. If you bang the top of it though, it fixes the TV. So the large language model goes, that fixes problems with the picture, so you should bang the top of the TV. But the electrical engineer knows that the reason it works is there's something that is either not connected properly. So when the TV warms up, the socket where the chip is soldered comes apart because it heats up. And when you bang it, it makes it touch and make contact again. And that's why the picture was resolved. Now, if it has never consumed the knowledge of the electrical engineer that goes, it's this, I've tested these and there's a fault, then it won't know. But not only that, if the electrical engineer is dumb and doesn't know this, and they go to the TV and they don't turn it on, they just test it with the test equipment, but the TV's cold, the socket hasn't expanded enough for it to stop making contact. And he goes, there's nothing wrong with it, your TV is fine, because I've tested it. And this is where we're at with large language models. It's not thinking, it's not going, well, how can it work? How can it be fixed by banging the top of the television? It just goes, that fixes it. And when it doesn't fix it, give it to a guy who will test it. And that's right. And by the way, because we're nearly out of time, but Helios says, I'm about to go for retirement, so now I will have time to do Delphi programming all day. Good job. That's and to read all of Dahlia's books and introduce them in my programs. Well, a challenge accepted, because she's a very prolific author. There's 4 of them for a start, and they're kind of chunky books as well, but they are excellent books. Go to there or go to delphibooks.com. He lists them on there as well, but Dahlia's books. And then someone else, Milan, says, this has been very, really interesting and enlightening journey. Lots of things we don't know, but are on fast track for discovering. Yes, I think it's an exciting time to be alive. I think that there is potential here for some great things to come out of it. But as a skeptic, I also think there's great potential for some bad things to come out of it. Don't trust everything you read. Don't question, be scientific about it. Question what you see and be skeptical, but but also embrace the positive things, because there are some very good things that come out. Neither you or I are saying it's a bad thing. We're just saying be careful.
Yes, you have to be very careful about it.
Like eating
You have to
donuts.
think what you're doing.
If you only ever eat donuts, you're going to probably die
Yeah.
quite quickly. Yeah, and Milan says, thanks to Dahlia for customary high-quality observations. There you go. Yeah, okay. All right, well, thanks a lot, Dahlia. We'll call it a day, I think, and just once again, go to her website. But Dahlia, she's a Stack Overflow moderator, which means sometimes she's nice to you and sometimes she kills your answer because it's terrible. But either way, it's a good thing.
Well, whatever you do, don't post AI on Stack Overflow.
Oh yes, don't post AI. This is the one takeaway from this. Dahlia will get you. She'll smite you with the moderator's hand of smiting. So there you go. Like it's a good thing, but it's all for a good purpose, and that is the quality of Stack Overflow. We all know if you want the answer, go to Stack Overflow. You probably, don't ask dumb questions. Learn to ask good questions. That's my top tip. Because if you ask a stupid,
you can ask simple questions, but they have to be well written. When I say well written, you don't have to know English well, but you need to present your problem well. You have to explain what is your problem, and then even a simple question will be fine.
Yeah. Zero trusted networking is extremely popular now, says AT. We should implement zero trust rules for AI as well. Yeah, I get it. So trust but verify is probably another way of looking at it. Look at it, ask it the right questions, and then go from there. But yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Indalia, and I'll see you another
everyone.
time. Thank you, and I will see you another time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, that is the end of day 4. Wow, has it really been 4 days? I guess it has. If you are watching on YouTube, I apologize for our little bit of a delayed start. That was caused by the way that the streaming works. I fixed it when I realized what was going on, but we'll try and make sure that the replay contains all of it. You only really missed sort of 5 minutes of Miguel really introducing his topic, but sorry about that. We do try to make sure these things don't happen, but a lot of this is live. I don't have a script. I'm sure you wish I did sometimes, then I'd talk less. But it's all off the cuff. Thanks to Dahlia and all my guests because they do all the hard work, and I just turn up and talk a lot. If you have not done it, you should probably go to the AI camp and register for the final day, which is tomorrow. Let me pull up the schedule of what we got tomorrow. So tomorrow, oh yes, we've got some very interesting things happening tomorrow as well. 10 o'clock in the morning, my time, which I think is 3 p.m. UTC. We have David Millington, who no longer works for Embarcadero, but is still out there doing stuff for Delphi. He's going to be talking about CodeBot for Delphi and previewing a new code pilot for Delphi. That's what he's got. I don't know whether he means Copilot or Copilot-like assistant, but that's what he's going to be talking about. Very, very interesting guy to talk to. I get on very well with David, obviously, as you know, ex-PM from Embarcadero and now working for other people, but I'll let him explain all that. And then at 11, we will be doing a presentation from Eric Berger from Gorilla 3D. He's a games guy, and he will be talking about how to use AI to create commercial quality games. If you've ever thought about writing a game, then Eric's session is going to be something you really need to look into because Eric is a very, very interesting guy. He's a recent tech partner as well. We embrace it, and his library is amazing, and his demos are even more mind-blowing. And then following that, another excellent session. We're going to have Valerie Kim from Der Scanner. She's going to be showing a AI revolution, how to not generate vulnerabilities. So it's about scanning your code. Just remember, if you use AI to create a load of code, then you're going to have to use something to test all that code and check it. If you create 100,000 lines of AI generated code, you've now got a bigger problem of checking all that code, never mind writing it in the first place. So Valerie Kim's session is all about that. And although it says I'll be finishing at 2 p.m., I actually will be finishing earlier than that. as well. Einstein says, thank you for this new day. Very good. Thank you, Einstein. Merci. Paul says, thank you to both of us. Yeah, Dahlia's gone now, but I'm sure she's watching this. Both with the interview for Dahlia. And Meltdown Shark Haven says, me. Okay, you. And thanks for the very interesting discussion. Thomas, thank you. Yes, I know you. Thank you, Thomas. And Meltdown, oh, I see. Meltdown Sharkhaven says he's a big video game geek. Well, watch Eric's session tomorrow, which is the second session, because Eric's demos are really quite amazing. And I have to say, a small confession here, a little open window into my life. I never played computer games, never. I've been a software developer for more than 40 years. And since the very first day, I have played video games years and years ago when Doom was out. I used to like Doom and Quake and a few others as well. But I used to like GoldenEye, you know, with that plastic gun. I used to imagine in my head I was James Bond, you know, that's what it was. And for me, sitting in front of a computer and playing a video game would be like just working again. I don't understand. I don't find it relaxing. I actually find it quite stressful when you get killed. Or I used to like flight simulators. They were quite fun. But even then, you know, who wants to go and do what, you know, fly a plane for fun? I guess it probably is fun. But, you know, that's Jeff is worrying me because apparently I was in his dreams. Okay, good. I think I'm glad or not, but I don't know what to say about that question. But thanks, Jeff. I think I'll get pepper spray next time I see you. And B3 Site says Ultimate. Yes. Yeah, actually. And Terry says no games here either. Yeah, see, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. I'm not. I don't care what anybody says. But anyway, and thank you. Today was positive, interesting presentation. Yes, I mean, I don't want to be negative about AI, but I don't want to be gung ho positive. As I said at the very start of this in my opening presentation, the thing that differentiates Embarcadero as a company, and actually IDEA in general, is that we do not have a massive billion dollar pile of investment just in AI technology. We didn't go and buy an AI company and then pour a load of money into it and now have the problem that we have to justify that investment. No. We do believe AI is a very useful tool, which is why it's in Rad Studio. You know, there's AI built into it, but in ways that you can get on board with. You choose whether to use it or not. It's off by default, but if you do want it, you can turn it on and it will work for you in the way you want. So we offer 3 language models at the moment, I think, you know, Claude and all those, and one, and that, so they're cloud-based, and then one offline Olama-based one. And oh, I see what he means. Jeff says it's 4 a.m. here, and I was a bit annoying. Yeah, that kind of sums me up, Jeff. Really, a bit annoying, but you know, we try and make the AI. We think that the AI and the ideas is a very important thing, and we think that as a company, we believe that it is you're able to embrace AI in a way that actually actively helps you in coding. But as you saw in the conversation with Dahlia and myself, and I think that reflects the overall view of many people, is that, you know, it can be a very, very useful tool, but like a knife, a carving knife, or a flame lighter or something like that, then use with caution and be skeptical, but you know, trust but verify, I think is the word we're looking at, and that's where we're at. That we think that embracing AI is it's inevitable. You know, this is a new era. It's as important as the invention of the internet, as important as the IBM PC. That really, you know, flat screen monitors, multi-monitors, windowed operating systems. It's that important. But also, you know, be careful how you use it, and that's what we do. Marco also says, no games here, wasted time. Well, you know, some people find it very relaxing. My daughter is an avid gamer, and so is her husband. They're fanatics about it, and that's up to them. You know, everybody's different. You know, and some people are vegetarians, and by choice. Some people think they don't agree with cruelty to animals. That's what they feel like eating meat is. Some people are absolute rabid carnivores, and if you live in Texas, boy, there's barbecue everywhere, and that's what makes our world such a fantastic place to live. And I really mean that. The diversity. You know, if you don't like Delphi, that's up to you. If you don't like C++, that's up to you. But I never regret being a software developer. It's the best thing I ever did. I knew from the age of 14 that's what I wanted to do, and it's the only thing I ever wanted to do. And I've been very lucky to do that for a living and get paid to pass those things on now. So that's all right. Anyway, enough from me. We will be back tomorrow with some good sessions on the final day. But if you haven't done it already, register there. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already done it, please click on like and subscribe. I don't care about the likes. They won't pay me any more if you like the channel. But if you click subscribe, that way, make sure you click on the little bell icon as well. That way, when we do go live, if we mess it up or we do it randomly, because I am going to do some more sessions in the future where we won't necessarily announce it, you'll get an alert from YouTube. We won't know who you are. We won't know where you are. We'll vaguely know what country you're in, but we will not be able to hassle you. We won't be able to spam you or anything like that. Google will send the alert to you, and they will tell you that we've gone live, and that will help you get to the kind of topics you're interested in. It will offer more of our content to you as a suggestion. If you like what we do, then click on like, and it will then offer you other things in the future and some of the stuff we've done in the past. It's useful for you, and you know, generally help you as well. Thank you, CJ 9 of 12. Oh, you're a Borg fanatic, aren't you? Just like myself. That's obviously a Star Trek reference for those that don't know it. 9 of 12. No games here. I couldn't enjoy it because I was always trying to figure out how they work behind the scenes. Yeah, that's the problem I have with all computer programs. I'm always critiquing them, looking and going, why did they choose to do it that way? And Marco says, thanks, Ian. Great session. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Anyway, I'm off. I'm going to go and have something to eat and walk my dog, who is down here asleep. Walk him out in the sunshine. It is currently 91, so it's like 37 centigrade outside. So he's going to be panting, and I'll change into a different shirt. But thank you all, and I will see you again same time tomorrow.